DK. When you return your 4 leading scorers, it's easy to point to a team that's going to have great success if they come off a successful year last year. So everybody knew the kind of talent Arizona Wildcats had this year. The question would be, how would a lot of the foreigners, some of the transfers all work in? And clearly we saw, maybe due to that summer trip that they took, they're pretty comfortable playing with each other. They went into a super hostile environment. And so I think the polls, I think 12 was a little too high for the talent level. It's just a matter of what they were returning. And 3's maybe a little too high. We'll see how things go as the season progresses.
So Arizona 3 in both polls this week. They opened the number 3 team. They got 3 first-place votes in both polls. There are 31 voters in the coaches poll. There are, 62 voters in the AP poll. The Wildcats got 3 first-place votes in the AP poll, so they come in behind Kansas and Purdue. Kansas got 51 first-place votes. Purdue got 7. UConn, the lone other vote in the AP poll. On the coaches' side, Kansas got 25, Purdue 3, and Arizona got 3. In the AP poll, your top 10 looks like this: Kansas, Purdue, Arizona, Marquette, UConn, Houston, Tennessee, Creighton, Duke falls from 2 to 9, and Florida Atlantic, a team that is on the schedule for the Arizona Wildcats, comes in at number 10.
What if I told you that the Arizona Wildcats have been represented in the AP poll the 7th most of any college in the history of the poll?
I would not disagree with that.
45.7%. Nearly half of every AP poll that's ever been released. They started it in 1949. Arizona's appeared in 587 weekly AP polls.
Wow.
So they have been well represented. Let's see. They've been in the top 5. Arizona has been 164 times. So 13% of every poll it's ever been, 13% of those times, Arizona's ranked in the top 5. So pretty used to seeing that name up there that high in the rankings.
Absolutely. Always good to see Arizona at the top of that AP poll. Let's round out the rest of the schools for you. You've got Gonzaga at 11, Miami, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Baylor, USC at 16, Kentucky, Michigan State is on the schedule. They are at 18, Texas at 19, North Carolina comes in at 20, Villanova 21, Alabama is on the schedule, 22, Illinois at 23, James Madison 24, and Colorado rounds out the top 25 at number 25. Good year for James Madison.
I was going to say, I don't know if you heard today or not, but this is the first. So I just mentioned that number of times that Arizona is familiar with being in the AP poll.
Yeah.
This will be the very first time James Madison has ever been ranked in the basketball AP poll. Ever.
Good for James
So
Madison.
they've got, exactly. They've got game day in town. I would guess that game day has never been to James Madison before. Probably not. Also ranked in the basketball poll for the first time ever. So I'm sure that student body over there is doing cartwheels.
All right, we want to take your calls on this pregame show. We've got you until 6 o'clock, until 5 o'clock. We've got you here, and then the network takes over at 5. Tip-off coming up tonight at McHale Center at 6 o'clock. Are you heading on down to the game? We want to hear from you, 520-848-1290. 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. In fact, J-Dub, let's tell the folks what we've got coming up for them today. How about that?
Let's do it.
Let's take a look at the Right Way Rundown and see what's coming up on our pregame show. Brought to you by Right Way Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Do things the right way.
All right, we're going to review and revisit the win over Duke Friday night, 78-73. We'll get you set for Southern as well. The Jaguars coming off a big win here out west. So we will give you our spotlight on a cat, and today it's going to be Caleb Love, who went back to Tobacco Road and got another victory on his ledger. We'll check the Pac-12 scoreboard coming up a little bit later. We'll have the opponent scouting report. Chris Powers, the voice of the Southern Jaguars, will join us. He is not traveling for basketball yet, as he is still focused on football. Got the Bayou Classic
coming
up. Yeah, Bayou Classic coming up in a few weeks. The annual Thanksgiving weekend showdown between Southern and Grambling.
Good one. I love that game.
Always a great game. We'll hear from Ryan Hansen. He'll give you a view from courtside coming up a little bit later. The analyst for the Arizona Wildcats Radio Network. Rhino was on the road with the Wildcats in Durham and had a chance to watch that game at Duke. We'll get his thoughts on what he saw and what he has seen from this team so far this season. We'll give you our pest of the game coming up for the Southern Jaguars, our best bets. The Wildcats enter this one as a 31-point favorite. Do you remember what it was? It was, I think, 34 against
Yeah, I think
Morgan
it was 34,
State.
yeah.
34, so a little bit probably with the way Southern has played. They are 1-1 so far. A little bit less than what we had on the opener. We'll give you our keys to the game as well as the starting lineups. All that is coming up straight ahead on the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show today. First, though, let's kind of dive back into the game and what we saw on Friday night in Durham, North Carolina. The Arizona Wildcats going down to Tobacco Road and coming out with a 78-73 win. The first true road win against a team ranked in the top 2 for the Arizona Wildcats since they went on the road way back in 2001 and beat the Stanford Cardinal. Now, I know you've got a pretty photographic memory,
right?
K-Dub. Do you remember much about that game at Stanford?
Ooh, 2001?
Yeah, that was
a long time ago.
Yeah. But that was that would have been the Final Four team, right?
Yeah. I mean, I do, like I said, we were talking about rivalries in conference. The late 80s to early 2000s, it was Stanford. And after that, it was Washington for a little bit with Brandon Roy and all those guys, and then Oregon more recently. But, yeah, Stanford was dominant under Montgomery. Stanford was always – it was really UCLA, Arizona gets the press, but it was really UCLA, Arizona, and Stanford. Those 3 teams were at the top of the conference for a long period of time. What I do remember, DK, is that the Pac-12 as a whole has been down the last decade. So what you're talking about with that stat – is really more pointing towards the fact that Arizona hasn't seen any road game. You said first road win over a top 3 team in 22 years. How many top 10 teams have they played on the road in the last 22 years? How many opportunities have they had? Because non-conference, Coach Miller didn't schedule a very hard non-conference schedule generally. The games they did play were in neutral sites, right? They played a lot of tournaments, preseason tournaments. But as far as having the option and opportunity to knock off a top 5 ranked team on the road, you would have to have teams within your conference ranked in the top 5, David Kelly. And we haven't had a lot of that these last 10, 15 years. So huge win. I got a lot of thoughts, especially that last 10-minute stretch. But just overall, super impressive. I do want to play one really quick play for you, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
This play happened with 10 minutes and 35 seconds left in the game. And it was the point guard, Kylan Boswell, late shot clock, being the hero.
Kicks to Boswell in the corner. 6 now. 5. Pick and roll with Balo. Boswell, step back 3. Yes, as he rattles it in. Another Lexus of Tucson Charity 3. Arizona 57, Duke 54. Boswell, there's a double-figure score. He's got a dozen.
So this took place with 10:35 left. It was late shot clock. Kylan, but you might remember his little step back 3 over Kyle Filipowski. Really big shot, amazing shot. What if I told you that was the last point scored by Arizona by anybody other than seniors for the last 10 minutes of the game? So that dunk by KJ Lewis at the buzzer was the only points that were not scored. After that play, it was Balo with the big and one.
Colin Boswell just smacked him on the rumps, and it's all right. It's a good move.
We're coming back to you, big fella.
And get ready. You'll see a lot of Umar Balo over the final 9:40. Blue Devil basketball. Mitchell steps into a 3. No. Arizona gave it to him. He took it and missed it off the front iron. Rebound Cats. Here they come. Transition Balo. An up fake shot. Good and a foul.
So they went a few minutes without a scoring drought, and then and one by Balo gives them a 6-point lead at that point, right?
60-54.
60-54 at that point. And then it was Pella Larson, late shot clock with the long 3. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Also the senior.
Larson gave up his dribble, in a bit of trouble, bounces wide and right to Johnson. Now Balo inside of 7 to go. Cats by a point. Left wing Love. Hits Johnson, foul line. Gives to Larson, 5 on the timer. Pella a triple, yes! Nothing but net.
This was a huge shot, late shot clock by Pella Larson to make it 63-59. It was a 1-point game at the time. Assist to Keyshawn Johnson, also a senior. After that, Mr. Balo gets a block on one end, DK, and scores on the other end. This one comes with 4:45 to go in the game.
Baseline drive all the way to the bucket, blocked off the rim, and taken away by Umar Ballo. Here come the Cats quickly to Boswell. Crossover to the lane, bounce to Love, won't shoot the three. Instead out to Larson. An up fake on Roach, ball on the deck, hits Ballo to the bucket. Great find by Larson, and the bucket by Ballo gives the Cats a 3-point lead with 4:35 to play.
Once again, senior Pella Larson passing to senior Umar Ballo after the block on the other end. And then the two huge plays down the stretch by the transfer newcomer. Everybody remembers this huge and one play over Kyle Filipowski might have been the play of the game, DK. Keyshawn Johnson comes up big.
Offensive board by Filipowski. Back up. It's good. And with 1:08 to go, Duke leads. 69-67. Filipowski with 25. The Duke players slap the floor with a minute to go. Cats bounce it to Larson. Lobs for Ballo. Stops. Kicks up top Love. An up fake. A drive. A bounce to Johnson. An up fake on Filipowski. He scores, and he was fouled.
Tough move from Keyshawn Johnson, but what I love about that play, Caleb Love could have sprung a relatively contested three from the top of the key, puts it on the deck, and is unselfish.
So, anybody paying attention out there, keeping track, that's yet another senior making a move and getting the ball to another senior in scoring position to make a huge play down the stretch. Then Keyshawn Johnson finishes it off with about 46 seconds to go with another pass and another layup. And I don't have that one, but the free throws down the stretch, DK.
Yeah.
There were 2 from Caleb Love, 2 from Pella Larson, 2 from Caleb Love. So let's count that up. 19 consecutive points by seniors, assisted by seniors after that three-pointer by Boswell until the KJ Lewis dunk at the buzzer.
Wow.
This team has a lot of newcomers, a lot of new faces, but what you see by that stretch of winning time basketball, those last 10 minutes, hostile environment, Keyshawn Johnson just played in the Final Four last year. Caleb Love was the best player on a Final Four team that went to the final game. So when you're talking about bringing those guys in, along with Pella, Umar Ballo, obviously, the senior leadership on this team, Kylan Boswell is going to get a lot of the, headlines as he should. We're going to talk a lot about Krivas and some of the other guys. But those guys down the stretch of that game, clearly, David Kelly, were the ones who willed that team to win. They've been in tight games that they've lost. You learn how to win tight games, just like Arizona football did against Colorado, by being there and losing those games and going back to the drawing board. Those seniors were not going to let that team lose that game.
Well, and that's what you brought those guys to town to do. Experience in games like that is so critical, and that was an excellent soliloquy, J-Dub, there of how having veterans that have been there before can key you in a big ball game like that, even early in the season, and maybe a precursor of what we're going to see from that group as this season goes on, when important games are on the line for the Arizona Wildcats.
People may wonder, where was Paulius Morauskas, for instance? He didn't get any run. Well, guess what? In a game like that, on the road against the number 2 team, the coaching staff's going to play the guys they trust. And who's more trustworthy than guys who have multiple years as starters, even if it was at another school? Those guys are the ones who get it, understand time of possession, understand how big the moments are. And so I think they're going to work in a lot of the other players and a lot of the other names. Again, Purdue's on the schedule, Florida Atlantic. They've also got Michigan State, a lot of really big games coming up. However, there are games like tonight's game where some of those other players may get some bigger minutes. But coming down the stretch of a game that you really want to win, you really want to go home with that win in Cameron, it was the seniors who came through down the stretch.
Yeah, we will hear from Tommy Lloyd, and he talked about that, in fact, after the ball game, why his rotation went down to 8 for this particular game. You'll hear from him on that and a number of other subjects as we move forward here. It is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show. Wildcats tonight taking on the Southern Jaguars. We want to hear from you, 520-848-1290. You can text us at that number. You can call us at that number. We are streaming this show on a number of video platforms today. You can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch at Wildcats Radio 1290. You can check us out on Twitter at Wildcats1290. Audio streams as well on our website, wildcatsradio1290.com, as well as on the iHeartRadio app. And just tell Alexa you want to listen to Wildcats Radio 1290. And if you're sitting in your living room or you got Alexa in your office, you can listen to the show right there as well. Take a time out here, come back. We'll have our first look at tonight's game with the Southern Jaguars. Review some more what Tommy Lloyd had to say about Duke. It is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Advanced Auto Care, Crest Insurance Group, Desert Diamond Casinos, First Chiropractic, Frog and Firkin, Kaiser Garage Doors and Gates, Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating and Plumbing, the Polston Results Team with Keller Williams, Southern Arizona, Royal GMC Buick and Cadillac, Royal Kia, Royal Jaguar Land Rover, the Window Depot.
Frog and Firkin, a standout among the bars and restaurants in the University area. Frog and Firkin does what very few pubs can, combine a festive atmosphere and great beer with a menu that could stand on its own in any restaurant setting. A sports enthusiast dream with over 30 TVs, 30 beers on tap, and over 100 import and domestic bottles. Daily drink and food specials, and the kitchen is serving until 10. A standout in the University area. Frog and Firkin. Eat local, support local. frogandfirkin.com.
Here's an important message from University Termite and Pest Control. The weather is...
Tip-Off Show on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
Welcome back to the show. David Kelly along with J.W. Madden. Kelvin Efon has the day off. Our thoughts still with Kelvin Efon as he lost his mother a week ago and headed back down to Texas for those services. So, of course, we are thinking about our captain, Kelvin Efon, as he deals with the tragic loss that has taken place in his life. And our prayers are with him. Let's take a first look at the Southern Jaguars.
Our first look at today's Arizona men's basketball game is brought to you by The Window Depot. Lowest prices and biggest inventory. Shop thewindow.depot.com.
And once again, just like Morgan State, second straight year, the Wildcats will face the Southern Jaguars here in Tucson. Again, this was a game that was supposed to initially have been played as a part of the Pac-12 SWAC Legacy Series down in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where Southern is located. However, due to some scheduling of some of these other marquee matchups, this game has been flipped back here to Tucson. And so the Jaguars will come here for a second straight year. And this is just the third time these two teams have met. They met in 2013 with the Wildcats winning 69-43. Last year, 95-78 over Southern. So the Wildcats lead the all-time series with the Jaguars at 2-0, and Arizona is 9-0 all-time against the Southwestern Athletic Conference, one of the two Division I historically black college and university conferences in athletics. Now, the Jaguars will be playing their second game against a Power 5 team, their third against a major Division I team, as they opened with a loss down in Texas to Texas Christian. TCU beat them 108-75, and in that ball game, the Southern Jaguars were led off the bench, a fine performance of 20 points, including 6 3-pointers.
Yeah.
From Brandon Davis, who is a senior 6'1" guard. I mean, that's not too bad if you can open the season with 6 3-pointers. But then they went on the road and found their mojo, beating UNLV in Las Vegas by a score of 85-71. And in that game, Davis hit another 3 trays off the bench to finish with 13 points, a game that they were led by Terrian Joseph, one of their starters, who scored 22 points in that ball game. Looks like, just on the surface, J-Dub, a team like we saw with Morgan State that likes to shoot a lot of 3-pointers.
Yeah.
I mean, they went 11 of 18 in their win over UNLV, and they made 10 of 24 in their loss to TCU. So this is a team you figure is going to come in here and shoot, averaging close to 23-point shots.
Yeah, and even more specifically, 2 guys. Okay, so their team has taken 42 threes in 2 games, right?
Yeah.
42 threes in 2 games. What if I told you that 28 of those 42 threes were attempted by either Brandon Davis or Tayron Joseph? So those 2 guys each are averaging about 7, 8 3 attempts a game. The other thing, it's unfortunate that Mr. Efon, love you, Kelvin, isn't here today, because one thing I'll tell you Kelvin loves is guards, and he loves 3, 4, 5 guard lineups. This team right now, I know it's super early, hard to look at stats, especially in a blowout loss like they had in their first game. They have 5 players averaging 20 or more minutes. All 5 of those are guards.
Yeah. Wow.
So they are very guard heavy. They don't even have a center on their roster. They're going to be obviously undersized. They're not going to be able to match up with Arizona at every single position. And the same exact game plan we talked about with that Morgan State game, the great equalizer is a 3-point shot. When you have a team coming in, especially those 2 guys who are going to launch a bunch of threes, anytime they see an open shred of daylight, they're going to let it fly. That's a little bit dangerous in general. That being said, the defensive pressure by this Arizona group of guards is just the best in the country. This is the best group of defensive guards in the country, full stop. I haven't seen anybody that comes close. So it's going to be really tough for those guys to get open looks. You want to make sure the game plan, I guarantee you, is wherever those 2 guys are, make sure that they're, guarded within 22 feet of the basket. But certainly, as you said, they're going to try to get up those shots from the outside, and that's largely to do with their lack of size.
And their point guard, who's from Paris, France, Jean Dumassi, looks like a pretty decent distributor. Comes into tonight's game averaging 7 assists, and that's tied for 29th in the country. And he's shooting the ball from the floor at a 53% clip. So not necessarily one of their 3-point shooters, but a guy that can make the 2-point shot at a pretty impressive pace. So, like you said, guards that can shoot the ball. That's gonna really bring that perimeter defense that we've seen from Arizona into play. How can they defend the perimeter and try to take that 3-point shot away from the Southern Jaguars tonight? That's going to be one of the keys.
The other interesting thing is the guy you just mentioned, Mr. Diomasi from France. This is his. He has played for just Southern because he came from junior college, came from overseas. The other guys you mentioned, however. Tyron Joseph has played for 3 different schools in 3 years. So he played for Austin Peay, then Radford, and now he's at Southern. And Brandon Davis, he played also for junior college as well. So he's a senior despite only having the 2 years of experience at this level. So I don't know about the familiarity when you have guys transferring in and so forth. It looks like they needed some volume scoring, and they've got the 2 guys putting up the very bulk of their shots. But once again, when you have a team that's clearly going to be undersized, it's really a matter of whoever there's going to be guys who they're going to be looking to get the ball to, David Kelly. But because Arizona's defense is so strong and because they're going to be tightly defended on the perimeter every single possession, I would imagine that any open look that those guys get, they're going to let fly, because the only way you stay in this game is to shoot a high volume of threes. They're not going to be able to finish at the rim with the length of the Arizona Wildcats. So, I would not be surprised they're averaging about 21 a game. I wouldn't be surprised if that number was closer to 30 today. Or more.
This was the when you look at the Southern Jaguars, they played a pretty decent conference schedule. They finished 11-7 in the SWAC last year, but lost in the first round of their conference tournament, and as a result, they made a decision to change coaches at the end of the season. So they've got a new coach as well this year, do the Southern Jaguars. So a whole new system for which they are operating with coming into this new season with their new coach. Last year, and again, we mentioned 95-78 was the final score here at McHale Center. And on the Arizona Wildcats side, that particular night, the Wildcats got 17 points from Pella Larson, Azulis Tabelas, and Umar Balo, all scoring 17 points in that ball game. Just to kind of look back, and obviously different coach, different team, but they took 23 3-point shots that night as well. And pretty much it looks like most of the guys that were on that team are no longer there. So again, just like what we saw with Morgan State, heavy turnover, which you often see at a lot of the HBCUs. Guys might, as you mentioned, that might not have had a lot of success at the high Division I level will bounce back to their hometowns or to an HBCU and try to rekindle their games. And it appears that that's what we're seeing here with this Southern Jaguars squad that will come in here tonight. Yeah,
a lot of home state guys gonna be there for sure. I've only ever once had the pleasure of seeing Southern play, and that was way back in the 90s.
In a tournament here, right?
Tournament here, yeah. I saw them play in 93 in the tournament. They played against Georgia Tech with Travis Best and Drew Barry right before I'm blanking on his name. The really, really good guard play for the Yellow Jackets during that stretch. And then they matched up after that with George Washington. And people might not think George Washington to be a basketball school. Back in those days, they had a guy named Yinka Dare. Do you remember him? He was a 7'4" shot blocking dude in the middle. So yeah, I saw both those games. They beat Georgia Tech in the first round, fell to George Washington there in the second round. But I do remember their band, because during the NCAA tournament, DK, the teams that do travel through here and play early round games get to bring their bands with them, and it was amazing.
Well, how about this, Jada? We've got some breaking news right in the middle of our show today.
Bring it.
Breaking news. Pac-12 Men's Basketball Player of the Week is Kylan Boswell, the Arizona sophomore out of Champaign, Illinois. Averaged 15 points last week in wins for the Wildcats over Morgan State and Duke on 11 of 17 shooting, 65%. He had 6 of 10 shots from behind the arc, grabbed 7 rebounds, dished out 3 assists. Kylan Boswell is your first Pac-12 Player of the Week for this season, and he also earned the final Pac-12 Freshman of the Week last year. Congratulations to Kylan Boswell.
Most impressive stat to me is 2 total turnovers on the season.
Yeah.
Only 1 turnover in that game in Durham. And man, I mean, you talk about high pressure situations, 18 and a half, skipped a grade, skipped his senior year of high school. So he did play last year at the U of A. Coming off that injury, he didn't play the full season. But to think that he's only 18 and a half years old with the poise of running that team. There's some ball handlers out there. I'm not going to put it all at his feet. But 1 turnover, David Kelly, is a large reason. That was a 1-possession game. Arizona won despite the dunk at the end there. That was that there were 3 lead changes, I believe, in the last minute. So that game could have gone either way. Kylan Boswell, we're going to talk all season long about his poise and steadiness and what he brings, but well-deserved. I think if you had to point to one guy on that team that was responsible for that win, it was a complete team effort. Everybody was responsible, but Kylan Boswell is about as important as anybody to that win in Durham.
520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. We want to hear from you. Again, Kylan Boswell is your Pac-12 Player of the Week for the opening week in Arizona, getting wins over both the Morgan State Beavers as well as the the Duke Blue Devils on Friday. And don't forget, we just want to remind you the little bit different Monday once again here today. The Jetfish radio show will be at 5:05, and you can hear that on KTUC Freedom 1400 tonight. KTUC Freedom 1400 will carry the Jetfish show. We will take you up till 5. Network comes on at 5. Jetfish moving his show up to 5:05, but you'll hear that on KTUC today.
Real quick, back to Kylan's early season. He's shooting 65% from the field. He's shooting 60% from behind the three-point line. He's got a 3-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, and he's averaging 7 rebounds a game. As a 6'2", maybe? What was he, 6'3" at most?
Yeah.
Yeah, big shoulders, obviously. But tracking down those loose balls leading to the 8 rebounds he had the other day against the Blue Devils. I just love the idea. It's really cliche to talk about things like making the right play and making the right read. No, what does that mean? Well, what it means is when you're 18 and a half and under the intense pressure of the student body at Duke, the guard play out there, those guys are all 5-star McDonald All-Americans. They got a lot of pride. When you only have the 1 turnover and when you're taking the right shots, maybe that step back against Filipowski might not have been a shot you're going to see him take. He took it because there was 1 second left on the shot clock. Had to take that shot. Other than that, he's only ever going to take shots from within the offense. When he can beat a guy off his dribble, obviously he's got great range, really, really good form on his J. But I just love the fact that he's not ever forcing anything, lets the game come to him. All those cliche things you hear about from a great basketball player. Kylan Boswell is just the epitome of the perfect read on the and making the right decisions, leading to those outrageous statistics we're seeing early on. I mean, 65% from the field from your guard, your lead guard, is not something you're okay with that guy shooting 43, 44% generally, DK, because again, you're looking to set guys up. This team passing the ball around a lot. Everybody's going to rack up assists. You don't worry about the 3 assists per game as if he's supposed to be averaging 7 as the lead guard. But 1 turnover, outrageous efficiency. He's just playing great so far.
All right, those are our opening thoughts on Arizona versus Southern.
That's been our first look at today's Arizona men's basketball game. Brought to you by The Window Depot. Lowest prices and biggest inventory. Shop thewindownedepot.com.
Arizona and Southern coming up. Southern coming in at 1-1, a win over UNLV on the road. We could probably have a conversation all day about what has happened with the once vaunted UNLV basketball program.
They're usually up and down. Like they have periods of 2-3 years where they're really good and then maybe a little low.
Yeah.
I've always felt like that's a team that should always
be good.
Yeah. Especially with the Finley Preps and the Brophies and all the
that
teams
are right there.
Yeah, they got some really good high schools up there. There's some great talent coming out of there.
Not so much, it appears, so far this year. I believe they are 0-2. to start the season. Let's get a break in here. When we come back, we'll have much more for you. It's the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show. JW Madden, I'm David Kelly. We appreciate you streaming with us today at Wildcats Radio 1290, iHeart, or on Alexa. This is Wildcats Radio 1290.
The Meridian Wealth Management Countdown to Tip-Off Show continues on the home of Arizona men's basketball, Wildcats Radio 1290.
Sean Furrier for Jack Furrier Tire and Auto Care. For some of you, the cooler overnight temperatures will be just enough to trigger your tire's low-pressure warning light. In most cases, you can solve the problem simply by adding the correct amount of air to your tires. This month, mention this ad, and with the purchase of any new tire pressure sensor, we'll install it in your wheel and rebalance your tire absolutely free. You'll find even more specials to get you road trip ready at jackfurriers.com. We're here to get you there.
If you're a do-it-yourselfer looking for quality car parts in Tucson, look no further. Advance Auto Parts has 6 Tucson locations with over 75 years in business. Advance Auto Parts is the largest car parts retailer in the U.S., and customers know they can trust their products, like Die-Hard batteries. Now with free installation, only found at Advance Auto Parts stores. Take advantage of our same-day delivery and pickup. Just visit our website at stores.advanceautoparts.com and make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Advance Auto Parts for all your car repair needs. Now a proud radio sponsor of the University of Arizona Wildcats.
Hi, this is Tim Couch, retired NFL quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, partner at Meridian Wealth Management, and proud member of Meridian's Tucson Advisory Business Council. It's my favorite time of year, college football season. I've always been a proud Wildcat. As our firm has grown in Tucson with Ruben and Natalie Fernandez, I now cheer on 2 Wildcats every year. My alma mater of Kentucky, of course, and our U of A Cats. Here's to a great football season, and go Cats.
Advisory services provided by Meridian Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor.
Do you often worry you left the garage door open? With a LiftMaster garage door opener powered by MyQ, you'll never worry again. You can control, secure, and monitor your garage from your smartphone anytime from anywhere through the MyQ app. As an authorized LiftMaster dealer, we have smart openers designed for your needs, including belt drive motors for ultra-quiet operation, integrated camera for live video streaming, and battery backup that lets you in when the power is out.
Kaiser Garage Doors and Gates is your authorized local LiftMaster dealer. Visit KaiserDoor.com for more information.
Experiencing the natural wonders comes easy at Rock & K. Nestled at the base of the Rincon Mountain foothills. Enjoy stunning mountain views up close every day. Explore natural open space, a network of connecting trails, and a community park within the Vail School District. Visit Lennar's 2 communities in Rock & K with home savings up to $35,000 and limited time interest rate and closing cost incentives on select move-in ready homes. Live RockandK.com. Designed by Nature, proud U of A radio broadcast sponsor.
True Wildcat fans know that when you're looking for the best place to watch all the big games on big screens, drinking cold beer and having the best food, all paths lead to Desert Diamond. Bet on your Wildcats and all your favorite teams 24/7 on our easy-to-use kiosks. Come chill on our comfy couches and build your best bet at Arizona's best bet, the Desert Diamond Sportsbook and Bar.
An enterprise of the Tohono O'odham Nation.
Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Desert Diamond Casino is licensed in Arizona.
Arizona Complete Health means more than health insurance to me. They're my healthcare partner. We get the care we need from doctors we choose, and even earn rewards for healthy things we're already doing. And with Marketplace, Medicaid, and Medicare options, I have coverage to protect my family's health wherever life takes us.
Arizona Complete Health, a plan for life. Visit planforlifeaz.com to find coverage that works for you.
The Window Depot is proud to sponsor the first look at today's game and would like to invite Arizona Wildcat fans to visit one of their Tucson warehouses. The Window Depot provides over 1,000 in-stock vinyl windows, interior and exterior doors, plus granite and quartz countertops, and a huge selection of custom cabinetry, all at the lowest prices in town. Consider the Window Depot your MVP when it comes to your home improvement needs. Stores are open Monday through Saturday, or order online at thewindowdepot.com. The Window Depot, more than a window store.
This is the Meridian Wealth Management Countdown and Tip-Off Show on the home of Arizona men's basketball, Wildcats Radio 1290. The Pac-12 scoreboard is brought to you by Mesquite Valley Growers. Mesquite Valley Growers, real growers, real experience, real nursery.
All right, let's take a look at what we've got going on around the Pac-12 Conference tonight. As most teams are getting into their third games, it's a pretty short schedule on this particular Monday, just 2 games. The game here in Tucson, number 3 Arizona will host Southern. And the only other game tonight will be Cal State Bakersfield will be on the road. The Road Runners, as they are known in Bakersfield, will take on the California Golden Bears at home or at Haas Pavilion, I should say, at Berkeley. The Bears are 1-1 on the season, obviously under their new coach, Mark Madsen.
I love Mark
opened
Madsen.
with a win over St. Thomas, Minnesota, but fell at home in their second game to the University of Pacific.
I can say retroactively I love Mark Madsen. I hated Mark Madsen when he played for the Cardinal because he was he's one of those guys you hated to play against. He just only had one gear, played 100 miles an hour, and he was just such a big dude, big skilled guy, really scary guy. Power forwards, DK, with skill and aggression, man, it's like a 240-pound running back with light feet. It's just like that combination. He was a real menace, and I'm glad, even though it's not his alma mater, I'm glad he's back in the Bay Area, and hopefully they can turn that around. I've always stood by the fact I think the Golden Bears should never be a bad basketball team. Too much talent in the Bay Area.
No. There is a lot of talent there for sure. Just got to keep it home like they were able to do back in the days that you were talking about. A lot of that talent gets out of there now and goes to other places.
Yeah.
Arizona State over the weekend got their second win of the season. The Sun Devils, I should say, their first win. They opened with a loss to Mississippi State, but they beat Texas Southern at home on Saturday by a score of 63-52. Yesterday, only one game. And how about this one? Nevada goes on the road to Seattle and knocks off the Washington Huskies by a score of 83-76. So just a few of the scores coming up tonight and the last few days here in the Pac-12 Conference.
That's been the Pac-12 Scoreboard, brought to you by Mesquite Valley Growers. Mesquite Valley Growers. Real growers, real experience, real nursery.
Did the bats that they had when they were playing at home for the Wolfpack, did they travel with them to stores, or is that just a local issue?
That could have possibly been the thing, you know? You never know.
Well, I mean, you know how certain, like Boston Garden, they've got some kind of ghost above the rim who, like, make sure no Laker shots go in, all those kind of things. Maybe bats are the new thing for the Wolfpack. I don't know.
That's something to look at. Let's hear from the head coach of the Arizona Wildcats, Tommy Lloyd, after this ball game. And one of the things that was interesting, he started out his press conference on Friday night with somewhat of a tribute, you might say, to his friend Andrew Reed, a college teammate of his who is battling cancer. Here was Tommy after the game on his friend Andrew.
I got a good college buddy who's got a tough cancer diagnosis, Andrew Reed, and he and all my college teammates, we weren't good players, but we're great effing guys, and all my college teammates flew to Walla Walla today to hang out with Andrew and watch this game because he can't travel. So that was for Andrew. I've been thinking about that a lot, and I didn't want to get too emotional about it, but there's bigger things in life than winning at Duke, believe it or not. And this feels great, and I hope Andrew got a lot of joy out of this today.
I'm sure Andrew got a ton of joy watching his friend's team go down to a tough place to play and win a basketball game.
I mean, we talk a lot about coach speak. In the last 30 years, David Kelly, it's gotten very mundane. Like, a lot of answers are very... There's a lot of things I love about head coach Tommy Lloyd. There's one thing in particular, though, accountability and the fact that he's clearly a real human being, right? I mean, that's his brother. Like, those guys, as he just said, there might not have been great players. That doesn't matter. Those relationships, obviously coming from a smaller town up there in Washington, I just love that. Starting out after the, quote, first top 5 ranked road win in 23, all those stats you've been talking about, none of that matters relative to what really matters in life, which is, friends, family, that whole thing always comes first. So
the people around you.
Just love it. I just love that he started his post-game press conference that way.
It was a win and a good team win, says Coach Lloyd.
I'm not a scripter. I feel like we can get so much better as a team, and but you need live bullets. And I felt like on a lot of our drives today, we were shooting off balanced shots. And so I was really encouraging the guys, if you didn't have a good, easy layup, one that we practice, get to a 2-foot stop. And Caleb got in kind of a tough spot down there and got on 2 feet, which was awesome, and found Key. And, Key, and we missed a bunch of layups just rolled off today, and that one we maybe got lucky and got an and one on it. I'm just really proud of those guys, how they made free throws down the stretch and stepped up. And, I felt like that 3 that JB had, Jaden Bradley, I thought that was in. I felt good about him at the free throw line. I think we got a bunch of winners, and so I'm really proud of how we kind of handled the situational basketball at the end. There was a lot of situations there. You try to practice them, but trust me, it feels a little different on the road when you're thinking foul up 3, up 1, 2, 3, all the scenarios. But our guys did a great job of playing situational basketball down the stretch.
Well, and you mentioned, and we talked a lot about this on Friday night, and you kind of alluded it to you in your piece at the beginning, J-Dub. We had mentioned Friday that, the big free throws made down the stretch by Caleb Love and Pella Larson, but it was the off the and one, the Keyshawn Johnson started that stretch in which the Wildcats made all 7 of their last free throws in that ball game, on a night when they necessarily did not shoot the ball very well from the line as a whole, finishing at just 65%, but being able to make those free throws when they needed to. And Caleb Love making 4 down the stretch. Tommy Lloyd was asked if he could have scripted Caleb Love coming back to North Carolina, coming back to a building where he had won before, and making 4 free throws down the stretch to ice the game.
I'm not a scripter. And I just try to coach the game as it plays out in front of me, and I'm not surprised he made them. I told him, he deserved that moment, and I don't know if I don't know if he played good or bad. I thought he was playing a little quick on some stuff, and I can imagine it's a pretty emotional moment, and he's a competitive guy. But for him to calmly step up and go 4 for 4 from the line down the stretch says a lot about him as a competitor.
See, now back when I was in college, if we would have taken, and I don't know how the mindset of students right now, but we would have taken that line right there, I'm not a scripter, and we'd have had T-shirts on sale tonight at McHale Center.
Sure.
I'm a coach, not a scripter.
Sure. Well, I think it's the same, but I think it's spread out among so many different social media that everybody's got something they're pulling away, for sure. I don't know how organized the student body is to take that one thing and everybody be wearing the same shirt. But yeah, it's a great line.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned Kylan Boswell is the Pac-12 Player of the Week for this week, and a stat-stuffing performance for Kylan Boswell in a win over Duke, and Tommy liked what he saw.
I think people forget that he's 18 years old, and these kids are reclassed and upclassed and doing all this stuff. Well, he's legit. Like, he doesn't turn 19 till after the season, so this should have been his second game of his college career. So I think him coming last year allowed him to get some seasoning and to walk into this game a little bit more like a veteran, and I thought he played like a veteran today.
Kylan Boswell, 33 minutes in that game, 12 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, had 2 steals and a blocked shot. Again, stuff in that stat sheet, and the Pac-12 Player of the Week for this particular week. He was also our glass cleaner from the last game. And I want to remind folks, don't forget, Window Depot, they sponsored our first look. They also sponsor Arizona's top rebounding performance every single night. It's the Window Depot glass cleaner of the game. Might be the Wildcat with the most rebounds. Might be the U of A star with the most impactful rebounds. We will tell you the Window Depot glass cleaner of the game coming up on tonight's pregame show. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on this program. I want to give you a few more thoughts from the head coach, Tommy Lloyd, after the win. Umar Balo in the game, 13 points, 5 rebounds, a solid 50%, 6 of 12 from the floor for Umar.
He's a force. He's a force. I'm sure those guys haven't felt a body like that. And he had a couple jump hooks that, I wish he would have maybe snapped a little bit more, not left short. But, I got high standards for that stuff, and he knows that.
That's interesting. I'm going to be interested to hear more about what those standards are in terms of, his big man and how he wants them to finish around the rim.
Well, I think it's as simple as with a guy like Umar Ballo, last year what you saw in the early season tournament, right, when he was in Maui, and he was off to, 75-80% from the field. He was getting a lot of national recognition. People were like, oh, this guy who sat on the bench, up in Spokane, all of a sudden he's one of the best centers in America playing down in Tucson. He did that, DK, by keeping it very simple. And when you body guys out and you're either going up and dunking over the top, or it's really nice, easy bunny layups because you've created space, you've received a really good pass, that's how you get to that 85%. Umar Ballo is never going to be the over each both. Well, maybe he could, but right now, currently, he's not a guy who's gonna, put a bunch of Akeem Olajuwon level post moves on somebody and get make somebody look silly. It's really more about angles and going up strong, so with conviction. So he's talking about snap. It's really on those hook shots. It's really just about that convicted finish when you really get a good, clean look. And because the entire offense is about creating space and the guards penetrating, Umar Ballo is going to find himself in a spot where maybe patience is the word we really want to be talking about. Umar Ballo, if he just maybe one fake and then go up really strong, can avoid that shot blocker, finish strong over the top, and you're going to see him right back up there at that 75-80% number, because that's the level of finisher he can be. The difference between now and Maui, he's a known entity. People know who Umar Ballo is. He was the preseason favorite for Player of the Year in the conference, right? So he's not going to be he's going to be on every scout. He's coming in on the radar. And so as a result, they're going to send extra guys over whenever he gets that catch. Maybe he gets a lot of kickouts. He was the person, I think, who got the ball to Keyshawn, who got the ball to Pella for that late shot clock three. He's good at getting the ball out when he gets doubled, but as far as finishing strong, just be super convicted in those finishes. And I like his style around the rim. I think he's going to be, again, that was a tough game at Duke. Not a lot of bodies outside Filipowski, but moving forward, DK, there's going to be a lot of teams that will throw multiple, 240, 50-pounders at him. So just pick your time and place, but finish strong when you get the opportunity.
Motias Cuevas, the Wildcats' other big man, only played 12 minutes in that game on Friday night, but it was a pretty effective 12 minutes. 6 points, 6 rebounds. He had an assist, he had a steal, he had a block in the contest, and Tommy liked what he saw in those 12 minutes.
I want him to finish a couple more of those layups, but he, kind of at the start of that game, when they kind of made a first run at us, he went in there and really impacted the game with his size and his hands and his feel. And, I think, him getting an opportunity to play in a game like this will really, enhance his confidence.
And we mentioned earlier in the show that only 8 players played in this game. You had the 5 starters for the Wildcats, who in that ball game were Keshad Johnson, Umar Ballo, Kylan Boswell, Pella Larson, and Caleb Love. And then the only 3 that got minutes off the bench were Motias Cuevas, KJ Lewis, and Jaden Bradley. And Tommy elaborated on why the rotation was just 8 in that game in Durham.
We have players 9, 10, and 11 that are good too. I mean, we have depth, but maybe those guys haven't played in an environment like this, so I didn't want to maybe baptism by fire. That doesn't mean they're not good enough. That means their coach just on one day, shorten the bench a little bit. But those guys are going to contribute, and for us to be as good as we can be, we need Phillip and Morauskas and Conrad to be contributing players, and they will.
Yeah, DK, it's really simple. Tonight's Southern, Friday's Belmont. They got UT Arlington, Colgate. Then they have Wisconsin, who's also not ranked. Those are non-conference games still left. They also had Duke. They got Michigan State, Purdue, Alabama, and FAU. Okay, these are all going to be top 10, top 15 ranked teams. That's the level of talent that they're going to see. So that particular game at Durham might not be the time to be getting the first road experience for some guys who might not really understand. Now, that's not to say that they aren't good players now or have the potential to be great players down the road. If they didn't play, if they did not play in that game, they very well could be seeing a ton of time tonight, a bunch of time versus Belmont, getting experience within that system, especially at the high level, before you have to rely upon those guys. The last 19 points were scored by seniors. That's why Coach Lloyd finished the game with the experience on the court.
All right, this is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show, brought to you by Dave & Buster's, the best place to eat, drink, and play. If you can't be at McHale Center tonight, head on over to Dave & Buster's and watch tonight's game between the Wildcats and the Southern Jaguars. It'll be on the Pac-12 network. And how about this? You got the Kents calling the game tonight. Jordan Kent will be on the play-by-play with his dad, Ernie Kent,
That's
the
awesome.
longtime coach at Oregon and Washington State. We'll take a break here, come back. We'll have our spotlight on a cat coming up in the next hour. We will also hear from Chris Powers, the voice of the Southern Jaguars, find out a little bit more about this team from the SWAC. It is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show with J.W. Madden. I'm David Kelly. We want to hear from you, 520-848-1290. You are listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Advanced Auto Care, Crest Insurance Group, Desert Diamond Casinos, First Chiropractic, Frog in Firkin, Kaiser Garage Doors and Gates, Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating and Plumbing, the Polston Results Team with Keller Williams, Southern Arizona, Royal GMC Buick and Cadillac, Royal Kia, Royal Jaguar Land Rover, the Window Depot.
Coach Tommy Lloyd here. Did you spend money on your AC this summer? My friends at Rightway will give you back up to $3,000 for those repairs.
That's right. No matter who did the repair, we'll buy it back for up to $3,000 towards the purchase of a new heating and air system.
No repair bills this year? No worries. We will give you up to $2,000 trade-in plus 0% interest up to 60 months. Manufacturer rebates plus 10-year parts and labor warranty on a new heating and air system.
Have an aging heating and air system? Out of warranty? We'll inspect it absolutely free. Call Rightway Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing today.
As Arizona's leading personal injury law firm for more than 30 years, Goldberg & Osborne agrees, bear down, Arizona. With offices statewide, including 5 in Tucson and Southern Arizona, the Eagle gives you home field advantage. More than 1,800 5-star Google reviews prove Goldberg & Osborne has the playbook for any situation. So after any accident, let the attorneys voted best personal injury law firm tackle that insurance company and get you the settlement you deserve. Goldberg & Osborne, 1-800-THE-EAGLE.
Here's an important message from University Termite and Pest Control. The weather is getting cooler here, and so rodents will be seeking alternative housing. Do you need a professional? Call University Termite and Pest Control, 886-4146. They've been serving Tucson since 1974. You can be assured University Termite and Pest Control will keep you pest-free using the most responsible products and application methods. 28 school districts, 3 hospitals, 2 colleges, 1 university, and thousands of homeowners trust University Termite and Pest Control. You can too. Call University Termite and Pest Control today at 886-4146 or go to bepestfree.com.
Think of waking up with energy, standing tall and feeling free. Think First Chiropractic, good health is to enjoy.
For over 30 years, Tucson has been putting its trust in First Chiropractic for auto and on-the-job injuries. They're locally owned and a proud sponsor of the U of A radio broadcasts. So if you've been injured, make the right choice first.
First Chiropractic, good health is to enjoy.
Do you often worry you left the garage door open? With a LiftMaster garage door opener powered by MyQ, you'll never worry again. You can control, secure, and monitor your garage from your smartphone anytime from anywhere through the MyQ app. As an authorized LiftMaster dealer, we have smart openers designed for your needs, including belt drive motors for ultra-quiet operation, integrated camera for live video streaming, and battery.
on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
And we're back for hour number 2 of the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show. I'm David Kelly along with J.W. Madden getting you set for Arizona and Southern tonight. Tip-off coming up at 6 o'clock at McHale Center. If you're heading to the game tonight, we want to hear from you. You can join us on this program at 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. Time now to find out a little bit more about one of your Arizona Wildcats.
Our pregame show Spotlight on a Cat is brought to you by O'Reilly Chevrolet. Get more with O'Reilly Chevrolet.
8 on the timer. Here's Roach. Dribbles around a pick. Now reverses back towards the paint. Kicks to Mitchell. Bobbles. His 3 is rejected right back in his face by Love. And that's a shot clock violation. What a defensive play by Caleb Love.
Arizona shut down Duke on every attack, every entry, and they punctuated it with a Caleb Love defensive effort, not something he was known for in his previous career up the road in Chapel.
Second free throw hits the heel of the rim in the front. Off to Love. He can hurry with 3, with 2. NBA 3 from Love. Banks it in at the horn. Count it. They'll take a look. That one looked clear as day, though, on Alexis of Tucson charity
3. And again, we said on Friday night, not necessarily the best shooting game for Caleb Love. Just 3 for 10. That three-quarter court chuck was his only made three-pointer of the night. Went 1 for 5 from behind the arc, and he turned the ball over 6 times. A little bit sloppy at times was Caleb with the basketball, but made winning plays down the stretch, hit the 4 for 4 free throws when the Arizona Wildcats needed. Had the block, as you heard there, as well as contributed 2 steals and 3 assists. So, again, contributing in some areas, and you'd like to see some improved, play in other areas from Caleb Love as he moves forward. But Caleb was the man to talk to after the game. So he is now 5-3 all time against the Duke Blue Devils. 4 of those wins have come at Cameron Indoor Stadium. So he has won 4 times now at Cameron Indoor Stadium in his career, with the one other win over Duke was on a neutral site in the NCAA tournament. But that's not bad. I mean, not a lot of players, I think, can say in their career they've won 4 times at Cameron Indoor Stadium.
I think Coach K went to 87 Final Fours in his 32 years on campus. So the time that Coach K was there, David Kelly, was really hard. Nobody was coming into Cameron Indoor and winning. You look at those numbers, people remember the Final Four. It was Coach K's final game, storybook ending. Let's beat North Carolina and go to the champ. No, that's not how it went. North Carolina won that game, sent Coach K into retirement. Caleb Love hit the big 3, but people might not remember Coach K's final home game was also versus North Carolina in the regular season last year. Caleb Love also came up big in that game. It was kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing in this game last week. Against Duke for Arizona. I think Caleb Love came up in so many big spots. You heard the block there, the 3-pointer at the end of that the first half. Obviously, the pass to Keshad, he wasn't selfish on that play. Huge free throws down the stretch. The other side of that is careless turnovers in a big moment, right? Dribbling the ball off his back heel. So I chalk that up to the emotion of being a former Tar Heel. He said it himself, Tar Heel for life, going back and playing at Cameron Indoor. You know, the student body section there had all the things to say to Caleb Love, not too much to say to some of the other Arizona players from across the country. But at the end of the day, those last 4 free throws are the lasting memory of that. You want your seniors, you want your leaders to take those big free throws down the stretch, because they're going to take a deep breath, David Kelly. They're going to make sure that they're ready and that they're focused and that there's nothing on their mind but knocking down the 2 shots. They're not worried about what the crowd's saying.
Caleb Love, a guard, senior, 6'4", out of St. Louis, Missouri. And after the game on Friday night, he talked about what it was like to get a win once again in the front of the Cameron Crazies.
It feels great, coming in. I knew I had my guys, and my guys had my back. So just coming in, I knew I was confident. I knew we was confident coming in this game. We were prepared. And hats off to them. They've had a great game plan, and we stuck to ours, and we got the win.
How much were you thinking about tonight in the last couple of days? Just imagining what it would be like.
Obviously, it was on my mind for a little minute. As soon as I seen that they was on the schedule, my eyes got bigger. But we came in and we handled business. That's all that matters.
Was it different coming in here with Arizona than it was the last few times you've been here?
Yeah, it felt different a little bit, just because I was with a different team. But I'm glad that I'm here, and we did what we were supposed to do tonight.
Your shoes and your shoes instead of Tar Heel for life. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's what I am. I'm a Tar Heel for life. Regardless of what our differences is or what happened in the past. I still got love for Tar Heel Nation, and I take.
Coach Lloyd said that he was happy you got the moment at the end to hit the game-winning free throws. What did it feel like stepping up to the line and actually making them?
It felt good. I work on free throws every day, before practice, after practice, after my workouts, and so I knew I was confident, going to that line, and I knew we had to, make those to finish the game.
With that half-court pass lands in your hands at the very end, what's going through your mind?
We know it's over with. It was great, and then seeing my teammate KJ dunk the ball like he did, and it was a great moment.
You've had a lot of success here at the Dean too. I mean, how satisfying is that? Or at the Cameron?
It's very satisfying. Obviously it's always going to be tough coming in here. Hostile environment, and this is a great team coached by a great coach. So, we definitely knew that coming in, and so we just had to handle business.
Did you have
to say to the fans after the game? I just told them goodbye. It's over with.
Did you have any interaction with your former Carolina teammates this week and today?
Yeah, I talked to some of them. They just told me to handle business, and I told them that I'm getting this win for them.
Caleb Love after the game on Friday night having some fun with the fans afterward, as I'm sure he has done before after getting wins in front of the Cameron Crazies. And that's part of college basketball that you love. Every fan base has players that they want to seek out. As you mentioned, J-Dub, I can remember, back in the day when I was in school, Gary Payton would come to town, and he was that guy.
Yeah.
He was that guy you just wanted to see if you could get under his skin and throw him off of his game. And good players like that, often you couldn't because they are just so good that they thrive off of that tension that comes with being in a visiting atmosphere.
Yeah, and the big difference there being those Beavers teams did not have a lot of talent around Mr. Gary Payton at the time. And Duke obviously has, 9 McDonald's All-Americans and 9 5-star players. So, and obviously Carolina when Mr. Love was there, and now at Arizona, a ton of talent here that Caleb Love's playing around. So I have no doubt. I know they do a little cheer sheet out there at Durham before the games, and they dig up some dirt and they pass it around to all the students so everybody's on the same page and they can be as trolly as possible. But when you've played in that building, this would be his 4th time, I believe he's played there. It's not going to be anything new. You know how big it is. We talked to the play-by-play announcer for Duke talking about the atmosphere changes, right?
Yeah.
It gets really kind of thick and sticky in there. I think Caleb Love was prepared for anything that the Duke Blue Devil fans were going to bring, and he knew he was coming into town with a very imposing team himself. And I think a lot of that confidence has to come from having your teammates who are running with you, right?
Indeed, and let's hear a little bit more from Tommy Lloyd after this ball game, and you talk about Caleb Love and the toughness that he showed down the stretch, and you heard Tommy talk about Umar Ballo and just what he brought to this game, and Kylan Boswell just stuffing the stat sheet, and Pella Larson and Keyshawn Johnson making big plays down the stretch. I mean, Tommy Lloyd has a team that is tough.
We're built for it. I mean, you guys look at our bodies. I mean, we got some dogs, and they played like it. And you got Pella and Umar. Caleb's played really well defensively. Kylan, Jaden. KJ, Keyshot. That's some dudes right there.
I got some dogs, he says.
Yeah, man.
Oof.
I'll tell you a quick story. You ready?
Yeah.
The teams after Sean Elliott left here were dominated by bigs. They had a really, really, really good front court Sean Rooks was on those teams, Ed Stokes. They had the Tucson Towers, something to that effect is what the media were calling them. Really dominant. Chris Mills was their power forward. The Mats in the backcourt, solid teams, okay? They had a year in 92, I think it was, where they played great, and they lost in the first round to East Tennessee State. Now, East Tennessee State at the time ran 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'5", 6'6", forward guard combos, and they just pressured the ball handlers. The interior passes couldn't get there. East Tennessee State won that game in large part due to the versatility on defense that they had from running smaller players. Now, I wasn't in the meetings. I don't know Coach Olson personally, but what I do know is that when they won the championship in 97, they had guys like A.J. Bramlett, right? They had much more flexible defenders on the interior who could get out there to the wing players if they got switched off or whatever. They adapted. Coach Olson adapted his style to the style of basketball in which he lost. Look at the guard play from Arizona these last 2-3 years. Now, obviously, Coach Lloyd inherited a lot of those players. The TCU game, the loss to Houston, all these crazy matchups with UCLA Bruins and that tough on-ball defense those guards bring. What I look at with this year, with the guys he's brought in with like Jaden Bradley, obviously, KJ Lewis, we're going to talk a lot about him. It feels mirrored to what Houston and TCU and that style of pressure on-ball defense that those guys are playing. So, again, I'm just trying to say that I remember a time when Arizona had a very dominant team that lost to another style. Arizona had a very dominant offensive team these last 2 years. When they come up again, when it's hard to get good, clean looks, it's hard to make interior passes. That makes it really, really difficult. And I think when you look at this year's guard play and perimeter, especially when you add in Pella and Keyshawn Johnson, you're talking about they're going to make it really, really tough. And I love the fact those dogs, DK, on the other side of the ball, we talked a lot about the senior scoring buckets down the stretch to win that game in Durham. But we all know it was really the on-ball pressure. Filipowski and Roach were the only two guys who did anything in that game for Duke because the style of defensive pressure we're seeing this year from the Arizona Wildcat team, physical on-ball defenders, very similar to the teams that Arizona has struggled themselves playing against these last few seasons.
Well, speaking of Kyle Filipowski, the head coach's thoughts on the big man from Duke who scored 25 points for a second straight game.
Yeah, his ball goes in. I mean, man, like I thought we had him in some tough spots, and he's kind of thrashing around in there, putting his head down, and when he's pivoting and stuff like that, and he's got good touch, and he was able to kind of bang some of those balls off the glass and in, I'm sure, he's only going to get better over the course of this season, and Duke's had really good players like him before, and they'll know how to take advantage of his skill set.
One thing we never talked about was his hip surgery that he had over the summer. For flexibility reasons, because he had tested the waters, I believe, in the NBA waters, and a lot of people thought he would have been a top 15, top 20 pick last year anyway if he had come out. Unfinished business after the way they finished last year is the main reason he stated he came back, but had I think a shaving process or something to that effect to help with his hip flexibility over this last summer. He is so impressive, David Kelly, around the rim. I mean, talk about the angles. It felt like he was bottled up a couple of times and just found the right angle to get the ball at the rim. Not super crazy athlete, but super crafty with the ball down there. Really impressed with his game.
But in the end, the head coach, Tommy Lloyd, just wants to caution everybody, as he said before the game, we're not going to win any medals for winning games in November, and it's time to move on after that win in Durham.
If you're not energized today, you got problems. Listen, my goal is to win all our games in March and April. That's really my goal. I don't have a November, little checklist on my thing to win all my games in November. I'm glad we're winning. It's better than losing, but nothing more than that.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I do not care what number there is next to any team.
Right.
Let alone the Arizona Wildcats men's basketball team, which has been my greatest passion for 40 years. I don't care where they're ranked. And the reason for that is because those rankings are really for media, for marketing, to make sure that you get a lot of eyeballs when you have two big teams matched up. It's also for high school students who grew up in the city. When I was in high school and Arizona made their first Final Four in 87, 88, are you kidding me? I loved it. It was crazy. I was going crazy. Now, I don't care what they're ranked. I don't care necessarily if they win. I care if they're playing good team basketball. And as Coach said there, any real true basketball fan would love to see their team improve incrementally throughout the course of the season, which starts in October, November, and runs through the end of March and beyond, because ideally you want to play your best 6-game basketball stretch in the most important 6-game basketball stretch of the year, which is at the end. So as long as you're learning and growing along the way, these moments, this is bragging rights. Next time you see a Duke fan, ha, 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 we got you. Next time, blah, blah, blah. As it comes to the development of the team, as he said right there, I think in the very similar ways, the way coaches do, I think, which is that so long as the team is improving, working on their deficiencies and getting better, this game is a great win. And it's a huge, win for the program, and bragging rights forever, because what is it now? 10 games and they've won 6 of them, something like that, against Duke. I mean, that's great. And that being said, it's really a matter of building upon this moving forward. That game's over. Again, no medals, as he said. This is just one game. Let's get on to the next one.
All right, we'll get more into the Duke-Arizona game with Ryan Hansen coming up at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. But coming up next, we're going to talk some Southern Jaguars basketball. Chris Powers, the voice of the Jaguars, will join us. This is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show with J.W. Madden. I'm David Kelly. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
That's today's Spotlight on a Cat has been brought to you by O'Reilly Chevrolet. Get more with O'Reilly Chevrolet. This is the Meridian Wealth Management Countdown and Tip-Off Show on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
Driving the lane.
tip-off show on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290. Our 1290 scouting report is brought to you by Ram Plumbing. When your plumbing is in trouble, call Ram on the double.
All right, let's take a look at this Southern Jaguars basketball team. Pleased to be joined by the voice of the Jags, Chris Powers from down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And Chris, pretty big win for this squad over UNLV. Heading into this ball game tonight here in Tucson. We were just talking a little bit earlier about this club, and it looks like you've got some guard play that really likes to perform from behind the three-point stripe.
Yeah, they're shooting 50% right now on the season from downtown, so that is big. They're shooting 50% from the field as well. So right now they're they're a young basketball team, and they're a new basketball team. Look, I mean, it's new for me as well. They got 12 new players on this team and a whole new coaching staff. They got 4 returning players from last year's squad, and of those 4, they're not perennial starters. So this is all new for everybody here, and that big game against UNLV was huge. We're happy and proud of that, and they did very well in that game. I watched them at an exhibition game, and they're still trying to get things going and what have you. But tonight's key for this game is going to be their bench play. So they're doing it with starters. They're starting 5, and they're doing it with bench play. They score about 42, 43 points from their bench. So it's an all hands in, on deck. Let's go and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, let's go back to that. You mentioned a whole new coaching staff here. This was a squad that finished 11-7 last year in the SWAC, but you guys lost in the first round of the tournament. What kind of precipitated the decision by the administration to go in a different direction?
He just was not getting past that first round. They looked good at the beginning of the season, and in the second half of the season in SWAC play, they just started losing games on the road. And you know as well as I do, winning on the road is key in tournament play because you never play a tournament game at home. You're always playing it in a different arena for your conference tournament, and then when you get in the NCAA tournament, you're playing in a different arena. So if you can't win on the road, you're in trouble. And that's exactly what happened. That's why they decided to go in a different direction. He was there for a good while, 7 years. So he just didn't get it going in that direction. So they said, we got to do something new. And they brought in Kevin Johnson. He's had 28 years experience. He's been mainly an assistant coach here in the state of Louisiana, UL Lafayette, which is the Raging Cajuns. And then he was at Tulane last year. So he comes in here as a head coach, and this guy's a good recruiter, and he develops good talent wherever he goes.
Well, we were looking at, just kind of looking up and down the roster, and you mentioned some guys, that are coming off the bench, and I guess that would be my next question. Like, it looks like, Brandon Davis should be a guy that's starting, but he's coming off the bench as one of your shooters. Why is that maybe the right role for him?
Because some players that don't do well at the starting role, and they do better coming off the bench. Let's give me 5 minutes and let me see how the defense is doing, if they're playing man or they're playing zone, and then I'll see how they're doing, and then all of a sudden I'll come in, and that's where he excels mainly more than anything. And that's what we're seeing right now with a lot of these players right now. And look, it's Coach Johnson still trying to figure out who his starters are, whose perennial starters will be. And what we do is obviously being a smaller school, Southern University, so what we do is we look to see how the starters are playing with each other and all that. Who can I bring off the bench? And we're getting really for SWAC play. Because unlike Arizona, obviously, you guys play all throughout the season as far as trying to get to the NCAA tournament. We get by the NCAA tournament by winning our conference, and that's how we go.
And then you got guard Tyrion Joseph. He's a 6'3" transfer out of Eastern Central Missouri, but a local kid from Baton Rouge. I'm sure for him, this is a wonderful opportunity for him to come and play at home again.
Yeah, and this is awesome because from my spot at A.W. Mumford Stadium for football, you can see their campus, Scotlandville. Scotlandville is right there by the Southern University campus. So he gets an opportunity to play right here. He scored 22 points in that game against UNLV. And Delang Mon, who is a true freshman from Paris, France, he played at Mississippi at an academy in Mississippi, high school basketball. He had 16 points against UNLV. So, again, this team is going. We do get good guard play. I think we're going to be a small team this year, and I'll look to that to be the same. We do have a couple of guys down low But these guys got to be stronger. Like number 21, Festus in Dumaya, he's can be good down low, shows potential, but the ball gets stripped from his hands too much. He needs to strengthen his hands, and also he gets in a lot of foul trouble. He gets aggravated a little bit by not scoring and what have you. So then he goes down the end of the defensive side, and he starts committing a lot of fouls. So he'll have to sit early because of the fact he's already got 2 fouls in the first half, 3 fouls, and he has to sit down and go down for a while.
Chris Powers joining us, the voice of the Southern Jaguars. It's Southern and Arizona tonight at McHale Center. Tip-off coming up at 6 o'clock. Your roster, like our roster, a number of international players. I guess what's kind of Coach Johnson's philosophy on that respect?
Who can play basketball? Let's go. Let's get it going. Yeah, like Delaney Mon, he's from Australia. This young man, like I said, he played high school basketball, though, in Mississippi, but he's from Australia. As I mentioned, Festus in Dumaya is from Nigeria. And then also Tujan Dumasi is another guy. He's from Paris, France as well. So they get in here and they get in there and play and they get acclimated. The only thing they've got problems with is getting used to our spicy food and how to pinch the crawfish tails down here.
You mentioned Tejan Dumasi. Just in the first 2 games, looks like he's a pretty decent distributor. How's he kind of flowed into leading this team offensively?
He is, I think, when I saw him in the exhibition game a couple of weeks ago, I noticed immediately he's the best athlete on this basketball team. He really moves the ball well. He set the bench for most of the second half because he wanted to see other guys, but he's the guy that's going to be the quarterback on this basketball team. He is a guy that's got a lot, and he passes the ball, distributes the ball very well, and he's got a good shot. Just if he gets those shots down, he'll be fine. But he's the guy that has got, I think, the most athleticism on this whole basketball team for Southern.
And I guess just kind of with Kevin Johnson, I mean, how would you describe the way that he's kind of articulated what he wants to do in trying to take this program to the next level?
Offensively, what he wants to do is he's not going to be the fun and gun, the run and gun kind of a deal. He wants to bring the ball down the court, and he wants to pass the ball and set up to the right player to take the shot. Look, they're shooting, as I mentioned earlier, 50% from the field, and that includes 50% from downtown.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. They got killed against TCU because TCU shot 61% in each half. They shot really well. He'd rather get on defense. He loves the man-to-man more than the zone. So you look for a lot of man-to-man if they can handle that, and if not, they have to switch to the zone. But his preference is to do the man-to-man defense. He feels that that's more effective of a defense that he wants to play this season.
And obviously, this was a game that initially was supposed to be the return of the Pac-12 SWAC Legacy Series down there, but because of some scheduling, it was flipped. I guess is that a positive thing for Southern? Obviously, there's going to be a game down there in the future, but they were fine with flipping this home game back here to Tucson.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, it was great. We've had some fun doing that, and I'm glad to see that happen. And I think that it brings a lot in. I know that last year we had a team come down, Pac-12 last year. I think it was Oregon. Oregon came down here for the ladies' side, and they got to go to the state capitol. We brought them all over. We got them some good food and everything else of that nature. So it's a good atmosphere to have that and good, partnership to have that.
And I know you won't be here tonight because you're getting ready for the Bayou Classic. I know that.
Yeah, the Bayou Classic is huge. It's the granddaddy of all that we call it. It's the 50th annual Bayou Classic,
oh, wow.
too. It's on NBC, national TV. Not many HBCUs get to be on national TV. There's a lot of people around here say, why don't you guys go to the playoffs, the football playoffs? And I say, well, when you got the Bayou Classic that pays like a bowl game.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's on national TV, NBC, no. So we stay that. It's in the Superdome. Weekend after Thanksgiving, it's a huge deal, and we'll put 75,000 fans inside that Superdome.
Outstanding. Well, Chris, hey, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us and tell us a little bit about what's going on with the Southern Jaguars this season.
No problem, man. I appreciate it. You guys got a heck of a basketball team, ranked number 3 right now, I believe, and I'd love to be there for that one, boy. If I could, I would love to be there for that one big time. So it ought to be a fun game.
Chris Powers, he is the voice of the Southern Jaguars for both football and basketball, and we appreciate him taking a few minutes to join us on the program today. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. We want to hear from you, your thoughts on this big ball game coming up today between these two teams. Second year in a row, the Southern Jaguars will make their way here to Tucson. We missed out on this last segment, so let's tell you about what's coming up in the remainder of our show.
Let's take a look at the Right Way Rundown and see what's coming up on our pregame show. Brought to you by Right Way Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Do things the right way.
All right, still to come, we are going to take you courtside. We'll hear from Ryan Hansen, who was at Cameron Indoor Stadium for the game on Friday night between the Wildcats and the Duke Blue Devils. We'll give you our pest of the game, the Southern Jaguar, we think might give the Wildcats issues tonight. Give you our best bets. The over-under on this one tonight, 163. What are you thinking in terms of that? The last time, that's the highest I think we've seen this year in terms of the over-under. Keys to the game, starting lineup, all of that straight ahead. We'll also let you hear from the Arizona women's basketball team after their big win yesterday. We'll hear from Helena Puello and Kaylin Gilbert after the ladies knocked off the LMU Lions at McHale Center last night, or actually yesterday afternoon, to raise their record to 2-0.
Ever see LMU play back in the day when you were at USC?
I did.
Because I know those.
That was my senior year.
I know Gathers and Kimball both came from USC before they went over there, and I know that was around the same time. So I'm just curious.
I did go to two of those games. I went to two games, kind of when they started getting it going and everybody started talking about it.
Yeah.
And so me and some of my friends went down to LMU because sometimes we would go hang out on that campus. It was a pretty fun campus to hang out on. So we went over there and saw a game, I think my junior year and then my senior year when they really had it going. The before Hank died, we went and saw it.
I love Gonzaga's rise over the last 30 years. I love the Murray State story. I love Davidson when Steph Curry was there. Had no business being in the Elite Eight. But to me, David Kelly, it all started in my lifetime with LMU and what Bo Kimball, because those guys were not supposed to be a top 10, top 15 ranked team.
No.
And that year, I just got nothing but great. Every time I hear Loyola Marymount, I just always think of that era.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was basketball in LA then when they were good, because then, before that it was pretty much UCLA. My senior year, USC started getting good with Harold Miner.
Yeah.
And then you had what was happening over at Loyola Marymount. So
but right before that, it was
college basketball
Reggie
time.
Miller's loud mouth over at UCLA. So nobody wanted to root for them. Come on.
Not really. Again, thanks to Chris Powers with our offensive scouting report.
That's today's 1290 Scouting Report, brought to you by Ram Plumbing. When your plumbing is in trouble, call Ram on the double. This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Blue Whale Car Wash, Caruso's Italian Restaurant, Cool Willie's Air and Plumbing, The Diamond Store, Goldberg and Osborne, Goodfellas AC, Humane Society of Southern Arizona, Lexus of Tucson, Nova Home Loans, Recon Auto Detail, Ride Now Power Sports Tucson, Tucson Police Department.
Does it feel like the price of everything is going up, up, up? We can't control the price of gas or groceries, but at Royal Buick GMC, we never add market adjustments, even while other dealers add fees because inventory is limited. At Royal Buick GMC, you can rest assured you won't pay market adjustments, and we stand by our transparent online pricing. Royal Buick GMC, the dealership that's different. OAC plus tax, title, license, dealer-installed options, and $529 doc fee. Royal Buick GMC, in the Auto Mall and at RoyalTucson.com.
Okay, kids, we're home. Everybody out.
Ew, my feet are stuck.
In what, honey?
On the floor.
Ew. Take off your shoes.
Countdown to Tip-Off Show on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
Arizona and Southern tonight at McHale Center. 6 o'clock tip-off. We've got you for about another hour and 20 minutes, leading you up to network coverage at 5. Don't forget the Jetfish Radio Show will begin at 5 o'clock tonight, but on KTUC Freedom 1400. KTUC Freedom 1400. Head on over there to find out what the coach has to say about the win on the road in Colorado this past weekend and the upcoming game, Senior Day, at home this Saturday against the Utah Utes. Kickoff of that game will be at 12:30. Our coverage on the Mall will begin at 8 in the morning. Another breakfast with the Wildcats. Woohoo! After a late night. Friday's game, we haven't even gotten to tonight's game, but Friday night's basketball game does not tip off until 9 o'clock in the evening. And that means that we'll likely hit your pregame airwaves right around midnight. Be done like maybe sooner, hopefully, than 2. And we got to be back on the Mall at 8.
You know what Mr. Kenny told me?
What's that?
He said, do you guys have to do a full post-game show for basketball? I'm like, you're the boss,
Well, if
man.
the boss says that, then maybe we don't have to do it.
Right as it stands right now, listeners, our post-game will go until 2 a.m. Saturday morning, and our pregame on the Mall begins at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
That means that doesn't mean that David Kelly gets there at 8 a.m. He also lives in the foothills far away. So that would be leaving here at the station at 2 a.m., driving home is about 25 minutes, maybe a 2-hour nap, and then back in the car to go down to the Mall. So we'll see how we did basically the same thing this last weekend.
Right.
It's just going to be about an hour shorter, maybe 2 hours shorter than we had last time.
Exactly.
So we'll make it through.
Yeah, we will. We will. No concert though to get me through Saturday night like I had last week.
You know what the actual words I said to Mr. Kowalczyk, I said, in the midst of a 5-game winning streak for Arizona football, when they're beating top 25 teams, there's nothing but positivity, and a road win in Durham. I think it was just pure adrenaline. All the people who work behind the scenes here and everybody involved in the pre and post game shows, we were very happy to be here and talk about the results. Maybe this was 4 years ago and we had a different situation, it might be different if we got 2 hours of sleep before post game and pregame started.
Well, since we're talking a little bit of football, how about some more news? Tyler Loop is your Pac-12 Special Teams Player of the Week this week. Tyler Loop hit a 52-yard field goal and a 24-yard field goal to help the Wildcats win at Colorado. That 24-yarder coming at the buzzer for the win. And as we mentioned, he has now made 45 out of 50 kicks in his career, and that is tied for all time in terms of average for a field goal kicker at the Division I level. So on his next kick, he can take over the lead all-time career percentage.
You know what else happened that game that we didn't mention on the post game? I think it was caller Paul or Doug. One of the two brought it to my attention. Maybe it was Doug. They didn't lead.
Yeah.
They did not.
Until the end of the game.
No, 0 seconds.
Right.
Because the kick came at the buzzer. So technically, they did not lead that game for a single second. The only lead they had was as time was expiring.
Right. Something. It is something for sure. When you think about that, and 4 straight wins now for that football team, it's incredible. It is incredible. We'll break it down tomorrow with Glenn Howell. Had a chance to watch a little bit of the tape and again, it goes back to a lot of different players contributing. I mean, names that we haven't necessarily called all year, like DJ Warnell, who he saw a lot of playing time last year. Playing time a little bit more limited this year, but when he got in there, he was able to make a play. Dominic Loliosio, able to come in and make a play. I mean, just some guys that we haven't really called their names, but every time somebody gets an opportunity, it seems like with this football team, Raymond Polito finally getting his chance after injury, just bearing guys.
Back to my point about
offensive line.
What a joy it is to be a part of the pre and post game crew for Arizona sports right now for football and basketball. It takes all facets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever it takes, you're going to come up against different styles along the way. And both of these programs, DK, right now are built to take on whatever you throw at them. It doesn't matter what style. How many different styles have we seen on the football from opponents since that going back to that Washington game? There's been all the different styles, teams that run, teams that throw the ball all over, teams that are defense first, all of that stuff. It doesn't matter. And same with the basketball team. It doesn't matter what you throw at them. They have an answer at all positions, very deep, and can, again, you got a question, they have an answer.
Yeah. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. The women's basketball team winners over the weekend. They beat Northern Arizona on Friday night. They knocked off Loyola Marymount on Sunday, yesterday. Kaylin Gilbert led the way with 15 points. Helena Puello had 12. Sale Karama had 12. And how about Brea Cunningham? We've been talking about her. She only took 4 shots in this game, but she made all 4 shots. She's now 19 of 21 from the floor on the season. She has missed just 2 shots in 3 games for the Arizona Wildcats. She finished yesterday with 8 points and 3 rebounds. Let's hear from Kaylin Gilbert and Helena Puello after the win over LMU.
9 rebounds, Kaylin. You've been one of the top rebounders every game. What's important for you about getting rebounds? How do you go about it?
I feel like it kind of sets the pace offensively for us. Like, I feel like if I get in transition, I'm one of the fastest players on the court. So just by me pushing it up the court and, the post rim running, we can get easy little points like that. So it's a lot.
Double. Double for the second game. You had 1 rebound short. What's been working for you early on this season?
Mainly just getting to my spots. I feel like kind of when I shy away from that, then that's when stuff gets harder. But, yeah, just getting to my spots. That's the main thing.
We talked about earlier at Media Day, I think, about how you took pride in the fact that you get all those rebounds. What was it in the offseason that you really worked on to get those hops? Or was it something you always had?
So I've always been a pretty good rebounder. I feel like last year I didn't do as much. But, I don't even think it's jumping half the time. Like, if you look at a lot of my rebounds, they go long and I just run after them and get them. So it's not really hops. I feel like it's just a mentality and speed. Yeah.
We think the 7th season 1 game could be a career record. Tie your career high. You started right from the get-go. You had 3 steals in that first quarter. What were you seeing tonight that, I know you always have, you're always disrupting, but was there something more that you were seeing tonight?
I mean, I'm just trying to be active on defense every time starting the game like that. I mean, I'm just seeing like where the pass is gonna go, so I'm just trying to know it. And I mean, I like to get steals, so I'm just happy.
Helena, you and Skylar both had 4 assists and only 1 turnover between the 2 of you. What do you see about Skylar and how she's coming along, especially with she missed some time?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's a really good freshman. I think she needs she needs more experience and learning things, but I think she's doing really good. So I think she can really help us a lot. So I think she's gonna be a really good player, but we just need to work some things and teach her some new stuff. But I think she's gonna be great.
Do you guys intend to take 27 threes in a game, or was that too many?
I mean, I think it was too many. We don't normally take that much, I think, but I mean, we were open. We just need to know when to shoot it, but
I feel like they're gonna start falling eventually. Like, I feel like Esmer can shoot, Jada, can shoot, you can shoot, I can shoot. So I just feel like, the first few games we've been coming out flat from the 3, but I feel like in the future we definitely will start hitting, and so we might even go up from that. So I don't know, but yeah, 27 threes, not right now.
All right, those are the ladies of the Arizona Wildcats, Helena Puello, Kaylin Gilbert. How about Kaylin Gilbert in 3 games has 28 rebounds, 9, 10, and 9 in the 3 wins for the Arizona Wildcats. Your point guard is also your leading rebounder, kind of like what we're seeing from Kylan Boswell on the guys' side.
Yeah, she and
guards
Kai,
that can go get it off the glass.
Yeah, she and Kai must be friends.
And Helena Puello, a career-high 7 steals in that ball game, 12 points and 7 steals. For Helena Puello. Good to see that.
She must be friends with Reggie Geary then.
Right? Exactly. She took 7 shots. Adia has said that she wants her to take more than that, closer to 15. She needs to be a scoring presence, and that may come as she's been dealing with a little bit of a quad injury, has Helena Puello. So as she kind of gets healthy from that, we'll see if she begins to become that volume shooter that she may need to be. But in this particular ball game, Kaylin didn't necessarily shoot the ball well, 6 of 17, not a great average as Mary, 3 of 10, and Sally Karoma finished 4 of 12. The Wildcats as a team in this ball game finished 26 for 68, so not a stellar shooting night per se, just 38% as a team. But they're able to get the win over LMU by a score of 70 to 54. And again, they had total steals in the ball game. They had 35 points off of those the turnovers that they had from LMU, which totaled in the ball game 26 turnovers for LMU.
It's always awkward, right, when you go into your final few exhibitions down so many players, because it's not just those 5 players in the running clock in their second exhibition game. It's the fact that you don't have the practice players to really run any kind of full stuff. So I would assume, DK, that any sloppiness will be ironed out quickly over this next few weeks, because they just didn't have enough players out there even to practice against. So, I mean, back to a healthy roster, that's a good sign moving forward. And 7 steals, I just think any Adia Barnes defense is going to get as many steals as they possibly can. That's what they do.
So they play again tomorrow night, and that's a game you'll hear right here on Wildcats Radio 1290. The ladies will take on San Diego, the Toreros, and that'll be a 6:30 tip-off. Our coverage here with Derek Palmer will begin at 6:20 on Wildcats Radio 1290, and then it is off to the islands. The ladies will head to the Bahamas, Nassau, for the Battle for Atlantis at the famed Atlantis Hotel down in the Bahamas. That will begin this weekend. They will play Saturday against the University of Memphis, one of my old stomping grounds, the Memphis Tigers. And then they will have games on Sunday and Monday as well. We'll give you that full schedule coming up here as the week goes on. But before that, the ladies will be back home again on tomorrow night to take on San Diego. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. We have just a little over an hour left to go in this show. We're going to talk to Ryan Hansen in our next block, and we'll get his perspective on his trip to Duke. He got to go and hang out there and see Cameron. I would imagine, Ryan's been around this program for such a long time. I would imagine that maybe he's been to Cameron Indoor Stadium before. That's probably not his first. I believe he was a student in the in the mid to late 90s.
I know he was around the program at the time. I don't know, because I remember we talked to Mr. Brian Jeffries about that. He'd only been there the one time when they had that home and home series. I don't know if Rhino was involved with that trip. We'll have to ask him.
That might have been a little bit before him. So, but yeah, it was good to see some of the members of the media went. Our guy Troy Hutchinson was down there. Obviously, Bruce Pascoe was able to go. I believe several other people were down there, and a good contingent of Arizona fans. We mentioned Tito Francona was in the house for the Arizona Wildcats that night. So anytime you get a chance to, I guess, go and be a part of an experience like that, you got to take advantage of it.
I mean, first time maybe ever a non-conference team had their chance audible in that Cameron Indoor. I mean, because U of A chants, you'll hear U of A chants across the country no matter what. But that's a 9,000 seat building.
Right.
The students line up for 6 weeks beforehand to get in there. So, I mean, seeing the amount of red and the voices, media members obviously making that trip aside, there was a lot of boosters and alumni that made that trip as well. It was well represented in Cameron with Arizona colors.
See, now that would make you want to donate just alone, because there's a couple of booster trips annually And so if you're a big-time booster, you get to make a trip like you get to be included in situations like that. It's a reason to give money. And Arizona needs it right now.
They do.
They do. All right. It is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Game Day Tip-Off Show with J.W. Madden. I'm David Kelly. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Blue Whale Car Wash, Caruso's Italian Restaurant, Cool Willie's Air and Plumbing, The Diamond Store, Goldberg and Osborne, Goodfellas AC, Humane Society of Southern Arizona, Lexus of Tucson, Nova Home Loans, Recon Auto Detail, Ride Now Power Sports Tucson, Tucson Police Department.
My heat and air were in a state of disrepair.
I'm Ron Arenas, the owner of Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. As we reflect on the Thanksgiving season, we are grateful to have been serving the Tucson area for over 22 years. Your business...
Brought to you by Kaiser Garage Door and Gates. Kaiser, celebrating 25 years serving Southern Arizona.
And there's nobody better to check in on the front row than Ryan Hansen, longtime radio analyst for the Arizona Wildcats, who was able to make the trek to Cameron Indoor Stadium on Friday night. Now, Ryan, we were debating, you've been around a long time, but was that the first time you'd ever gone to Cameron Indoor?
First time for a game. I have been there before on a tour. We played at North Carolina in 2006, and I knew the director of operations well from Duke, who is now the AD at St. John's, Mike Craig, and he gave me a tour of the facility. But it's different, right? It's like walking into McHale on a Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. You're like, okay, so what's so special? You're there on game night, completely different situation, and that's exactly what I got to see Friday night.
Yeah, and what a ball game that it was. What were some of the things that kind of stood out to you? Obviously, we were talking at the beginning of the show, J-Dub kind of brought up how the seniors really took control of that game down the stretch. And a lot of guys that maybe hadn't played together before, but guys that had played in that type of big game atmosphere and were able to really put the Wildcats over the top, talking about Pella Larson and Kashad Johnson and Caleb Love and those guys down the stretch.
Yeah, that's a narrative that hasn't really been talked a lot about, which is Arizona's overall experience. Like you said, maybe not in an Arizona uniform, but just collegiate basketball maturity. Who stepped up at the end of the game? Well, you saw Duke, Jeremy Roach stepped up, senior. Kyle Filipowski played a ton of minutes as a freshman, now as a sophomore, and he's a unicorn, but he was special. But then you look at who made all the big plays down the stretch. Pella Larson knocking down a couple of trays. Caleb, Kashad, those guys, and we'll talk about Kylan Boswell's performance, I'm sure, but those guys made the biggest plays down the stretch. You talked about Pella hit the threes, but he also is the guy that dumped off the pass to Keshad Johnson on the baseline to tie it at one point. So every big play down the stretch had either one of those guys or an Arizona guy like Umar. For 10, I don't recall really one, maybe two ill-advised shots, maybe, but I know you want to do what I like to do, which is shine the bright light on him. Let's look back to the game-winning play. Ball gets reversed to him after a post touch. Caleb Love at North Carolina last year takes the three at the top of the key, contested. He jacks it. He wants to win it. Everything's on his shoulders. At Arizona, ball fake, drive to the paint, pass to Keshad, and one. I think that is a small glimpse of Caleb Love's evolution into becoming a great player for Arizona, because he could have easily said, my time, I'm going to hit the game-winning three. Instead, he deferred to a better, more open shot. I can overlook those turnovers when it came to winning time. Made free throws, and that unselfish play to me were spectacular.
Oh, we're going to talk a lot this year, Rhino, about the just general toughness of this backcourt. And obviously, you can say all the names. We'll get into it all year long talking to you. Watching what they did against Duke, I was reminded a little bit of those early 90s teams with the Tucson Skyline and how the East Tennessee State loss went. And Lute adapting that team into what became the mid-90s teams, much more perimeter-oriented, a lot of versatile forwards and centers who could get out and guard perimeter. We saw TCU. We saw Houston, some of the teams that Coach Lloyd has seen these last few seasons, that tough on-ball defense. Obviously inherited a lot of the players when he first took over. The roster now is a lot more Coach Lloyd's guys that he's brought in, that level of on-ball toughness and defense, how much, number one, how good is this perimeter team defensively? And number two, do you see that similarity where it feels like Coach Lloyd is adapting the style of his team based on the teams he's seen recently and maybe struggled against that style of play?
J-Dub, I think you've made some great observations there. One is that Arizona historically has
Field. I mean, there is nobody that knows this game better than Ryan Hansen and knows this program better than Ryan Hansen. Much more coming up. We got about 40 minutes left with you as we get you up to the network coverage in 5. It's the Wildcats and Southern, the Jaguars from the SWAC, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, coming to town for a second straight year. With J.W. Madden, I'm David Kelly. This is Wildcats Radio 1290.
We hope you enjoyed your view from courtside. It was brought to you by Kaiser Garage Door and Gates. Kaiser, celebrating 25 years serving Southern Arizona. This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Broadway in Tucson, Dave & Buster's Tucson, Dorado Rock, First Choice Pools, The Good Feet Store, Jack Furrier Tire and Auto Care, O'Reilly Chevrolet, Ram Plumbing, Restaurant Supply Store, Right Way Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, Rocking KA Master Plan Community Design by Nature, University Termite and Pest Control.
Do you often worry you left the garage door open? With a LiftMaster garage door opener powered by MyQ, you'll never worry again. You can control, secure, and monitor your garage from your smartphone anytime from anywhere through the MyQ app. As an authorized LiftMaster dealer, we have smart openers designed for your needs, including belt drive motors for ultra-quiet operation, integrated camera for live video streaming, and battery backup that lets you in when the power is out.
Kaiser Garage Doors and Gates is your authorized local LiftMaster dealer. Visit KaiserDoor.com for more information.
Does it feel like the price of everything is going up, up, up? We can't control the price of gas or groceries, but at Royal Buick GMC, we never add market adjustments, even while other dealers add fees because inventory is limited. At Royal Buick GMC, you can rest assured you won't pay market adjustments, and we stand by our transparent online pricing. Royal Buick GMC, the dealership that's different. OAC plus tax, title, license, dealer installed options, and $529 doc fee. Royal Buick GMC, in the Auto Mall and at RoyalTucson.com.
As Arizona's leading personal injury law firm for more than 30 years, Goldberg & Osborne agrees, bear down, Arizona. With offices statewide, including 5 in Tucson and Southern Arizona, the Eagle gives you home field advantage. More than 1,800 5-star Google reviews prove Goldberg & Osborne has the playbook for any situation. So after any accident, let the attorneys voted best personal injury law firm tackle that insurance.
Wildcats Radio 1290.
Arizona and Southern tonight here in Tucson. College basketball night in Arizona, as we like to say. Tip-off coming up for you at 6 o'clock. Wildcats, number 3 in the country now, looking to go to 3-0 on the season. If you were not with us earlier, the Wildcats have made the jump up in both of the polls this season, or this week, I should say. Both the coaches poll and the writers poll, the AP, the Wildcats jumping up to number 3 behind Kansas and Purdue. Of course, Purdue is one of the teams that is on the Wildcats schedule coming up. Purdue and Michigan State and Florida Atlantic and Alabama and Wisconsin. Wisconsin currently unranked to start this particular college basketball season. And I don't even think that the Badgers are receiving any votes at the moment. So they've got some work to do down there, but still always they've gotten a few votes on the coaches' side, have the Badgers, but not any votes so far on the writers' side for Wisconsin. This will be the third all-time meeting between the Southern Jaguars and the Arizona Wildcats, including last season when the Jags came to town and lost 95-78. Wildcats and Jags first met in 2013 here in Tucson, and it was a 69-43 win for the Wildcats in that particular year as well. We mentioned that Colin Boswell has been named the Pac-12 Player of the Week for this first week of the season, completing the first week of the regular season. That is a great honor for him. He was the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week to end last season, was Colin Boswell. Let's do a little betting here. How about that?
Sorry, my friend. I'm talking to Nate Meridian here. We're trying to get our Jed Fish coverage on at the other station handle.
I can tell you exactly then what the lines are.
No, I have it ready to go.
For this ball game. Go right ahead.
Tucson, what are some of today's best bets? Will the Cats beat the spread? It's time to look at some of today's best bets. Brought to you by Desert Diamond Sportsbook, Arizona's best bet.
All right, here we go. The line on this one is Arizona plus 31 against the Southern Jaguars. I felt comfortable with that line against Morgan State. I don't know if this is a 30-point win tonight, though. That's
a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. I think I'm gonna take Southern in the 31 on that, J-Dub.
Okay.
I think I'm taking Southern in the 31.
I do know Southern had a good showing when they played the Running Rebels. They, however, did also lose to TCU at TCU by 31 points as well. So maybe Jekyll Hyde type of situation there. A lot of new faces. Here's the way I look at it. I think Arizona's big win, letdown, high ranking, all that stuff, the way that you normally look at it. In a vacuum, sure. But once again, there's only 3 players returning from last year's rotation, okay? So there's so many players for the coaching staff to work in. This isn't just another ho-hum, get the starters a few minutes and then get a big lead and put a bunch of people at the very, very end of the bench in. The coaching staff's still trying to figure out lineups. They're still trying to figure out how guys are going to play together, and they're going to work on some stuff today. Today's going to be a basic, not practice, but today's going to be a game in which the coaching staff will put lineups out there. And to that point, just like I said, 3 returning players, there's a lot of guys like Pauly Smorauskas, for instance, who didn't get in last game, who are trying to make a name for themselves, get themselves on film for the coaching staff to look at. I would not be surprised to see Southern play hard, to make a bunch of shots. However, I also think that the guys at the end of the bench are going to be playing for minutes. So in that case, I wouldn't be surprised to see 30. I will take the other side. I will take the over, and I think it won't be that much more, but I wouldn't be surprised to see 35, maybe 40-point win.
Wow. So you're laying the points and taking the over.
And I'll tell you, the other reason why I didn't mention is that this Southern team that's coming in is lacking in one thing, and that is size. Now, that might have been a problem in the past if Arizona didn't have guard play to match up, and you're talking about speeding the team up. But this Arizona team can match up with any style that you throw at them. I love the small ball lineup, like we talked with Rhino just now. This might be the best small ball lineup in the country, David Kelly. When you talk about taking the 7-footers out of there and playing Keyshawn and Pella in the inside, I mean, those guys are really, really tough. So I really like this team. I think they're going to take this as a challenge. These two leading scorers for Southern coming in, averaging 7-8 3-point attempts a game. One of them shooting 50% from the 3-point line so far this year. I think the defenders from this year's team are going to take that as a challenge, and they're going to really, the guys from Duke who we all expected to do things from the perimeter in their own building didn't. Roach was the only one who could do anything against this defense. So I think any team, for that matter, that comes into McHale perimeter-oriented and they rely upon their perimeter guys, unless you're talking about a top 10 lottery pick coming in and just doing what he wants, I think Arizona's going to do a good job taking people out of their style, because the aggression on defense, on-ball defense from these four guards really is just so strong.
120 plus tonight, you think?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to go over that. I think both teams are going to get a lot of. It's going to be a fast pace. The only way that Southern stays in this game, both their games they've played so far.
I mean, do you think U of A will get 120?
Oh,
points?
No. I don't think it's going to be quite the same as the Morgan State game.
Okay.
I do think it'll go over though.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna take the over as well, but I'm gonna take Southern plus the 31. So I'll take Southern plus the 31 and the over. J-Dub is going to lay the 31, take U of A and the over. And, of course, J-Dub took all the money on Friday night. So we'll see how it plays out tonight.
Those are today's best bets. They are brought to you by Desert Diamond Sportsbook, Arizona's best bet.
It's tough, man, when you're like guard-oriented and perimeter-oriented, David Kelly, and you come against a team like this Arizona team, they're really going to take a lot of pride in that perimeter defense. I mean, because you're talking about a great super sophomore in Kylan Boswell. Keyshawn, will switch out on the perimeter as well. But Caleb Love is a little underrated, I think, as a defender. It's his last go-around. He showed the ability, and Jaden Bradley, that's what he does. He is just a great perimeter defender. And then the freshman, KJ. I just think between those four guys, it's going to be really tough for perimeter guy. We're going to see the numbers. If you want to know what to bet on in the best bets this year, all year long, it's the under the percentage that perimeter teams shoot in normal games relative to going up against this Arizona defense.
Well, again, this is a Southern team that comes in shooting 50% from the floor. They've made 63 of 125. They shoot 50% from the three-point line, having made 21 of 42. And Brandon Davis, their best three-point shooter we talked about, is shooting 60% from behind the arc coming in, having made 9 of 15. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. At the top of the show, J-Dub, we were talking about the win at Duke was the first time that Arizona had beaten a top 2 team on the road since the Stanford win back in 2001. Was able to find some info on that game. That was a 76-75 win at Maples Pavilion. That was the one Michael Wright hit the layup with 3 seconds to go, and it was a late March. It might have been the last regular season game of the season.
You think Coach Schreier was at that game too?
Quite possibly. Gilbert Arenas had 22 in that ball game for the Arizona Wildcats. Richard Jefferson had 14 as the Wildcats avenged a home loss to Stanford year.
Who were the guys on Stanford's team?
Casey Jacobson was on that team. Jason Collins.
Collins twins.
Was on, the Collins twins were on that team. So some good talent for sure on both sides of that team.
Yeah, I mean, some of the early to late 90s and then briefly into the early 2000s games between Stanford and Arizona, it was some of the most cerebral basketball because both coaches really prided themselves on getting their guys ready. So that was must-see TV as far as I'm concerned. There's been a lot of teams in this conference, we've talked about this, who you could consider to be Arizona's rival outside of the Bruins. But the Cardinal Wildcats matchups, when both those teams perennially every year finished in the top 3. I always loved watching those games back in those days.
Good stuff. Good stuff indeed back in the day. All right, final chance for you to get in on the program. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. We've got one segment to go. We'll have our keys to the game and our best bets and all of that straight ahead for you. We actually have to go back. We have to do our pest of the game, too. We did not do that in our first segment, so we'll give you our pest of the game, our keys to the game, and our starting lineups all coming up in the next segment. This is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show with J.W. Madden. I'm David Kelly, and this is Wildcats Radio 1290.
This is the Meridian Wealth Management Countdown and Tip-Off Show on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
Cantina nachos, strawberry watermelon margaritas, a few zombie kills, and all your favorite sports teams live? When your day calls for some winning, it's time for Dave & Buster's, where you can eat, drink, play, and watch all the sports you want. They've got massive HD TVs, hundreds of the hottest new games, a chef-crafted menu, and an incredible list of beers, wines, and cocktails. So remember, if your day calls for a little victory, a little triumph, a little win, it's probably calling for Dave & Buster's.
Driving the lane, dunking on the competition, and playing as a team. These are things we'll see this season watching our Wildcats play basketball. These happen to be the things you'll also find when you...
on the home of Arizona men's basketball, Wildcats Radio 1290.
All right, we got a lot of things to get to in this final segment of the show, so let's get it rolling. How about we find out who that one guy on the Southern Jaguars is that might get underneath our skin tonight at McHale Center.
Who is today's Pest of the Game? The Pest of the Game is brought to you by University Termite and Pest Control. Check them out at BePestFree.com.
Well, this is kind of a tough one, J-Dub. You know me, I like to go defense. I usually look for a guy that's, stuffing the stat sheet and in the steals and blocks category and that kind of thing. And I'm not really seeing that guy on this particular team through 2 games in which the Jaguars have lost to TCU and beaten UNLV. So I'm going to go with the guy that comes off the bench and makes all the 3-point shots. Brandon Davis, 2 games, does not start, but plays starter minutes at 24 game and has knocked down 9 of 15 3-point shots. If Brandon Davis is having a good night tonight for the Southern Jaguars, I think that's going to pose problems for this Arizona team.
Yeah, no doubt. It's tough. You only have 2 game sample size, some new players in there. I will go with Tijani Diamasi.
The starting point guard, yes.
Right, and I'll say that for 2 reasons. He does lead them in steals. Obviously, it's super early. But number 2, I'm just going to assume he's a Nicolas Batum fan because he's French, and Nicolas Batum, very, very good defender, especially on ball. So being at that 6'4" frame from Paris, France, I think he's going to come into this game and try to put his stamp on the game by trying to get into the passing lanes. The only way, David Kelly, that this team has any chance is if Arizona somehow has 30 turnovers and they shoot, 20 out of 30 from 3-point land. So they're going to have to try to speed up the Cats. They're not going to, but they're going to have to try to speed them up and get some heavy turnovers. And I think he's probably the guy I would look at and point to maybe try to be doing that the most.
All right, so Tijani Diamasi for J-Dub, who is the starting point guard. And as you mentioned, he is averaging about 4 assists per ball game through the first 3 games. And for me, Brandon Davis, off the bench shooter, who is knocking down the 3 at 60%, having made 9 of 15. Those are the 2 guys that might just get underneath the skin of the Arizona Wildcats tonight.
That's today's Pest of the Game. The Pest of the Game is brought to you by University Termite and Pest Control. Visit BePestFree.com.
I love it how Brandon Davis is coming off the bench, right? Coming off the bench. 15 3-pointers attempted in 2 games off the bench.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Almost 8 threes a game attempted off the bench. That's hard to do unless you come in with the green light and you just take your warm-ups off and your first touch, it goes up.
That's why I was asking Chris Powers. I was like, why is he coming off the bench and not starting? He's the best 3-point shooter on the team. But like he mentioned, some guys are just better in that situation than they are at starting. I want to remind you, this is one of 2 games this week actually 3 games, I should say, this week for the Arizona Wildcats. The Wildcats will play Friday night against Belmont and then Sunday at McHale Center against Texas Arlington. So that'll be the 3 games coming up this week before Arizona will play on Thanksgiving Day in Palm Desert against the Michigan State Spartans. So that'll be the next 4 games on the schedule to round out the month of November here. And the Wildcats obviously would love to be 6-0 when this month ends.
Hard to beat Coach Lloyd in the non-conference schedule.
Hard to beat Coach Lloyd anytime. He is 63-11 coming into tonight's game for the Arizona Wildcats in 2 seasons. I mean, just an unbelievable mark when you look at that. Set the NCAA record for most wins last year in a first 2 seasons of coaching, 61. And the NCAA record for most wins through 3 seasons is 89 by Brad Underwood and Brad Stevens. So I would imagine Brad Stevens did it at Butler Brad Underwood, J-Dub, I don't remember where he coached.
Ooh, that's put me on the spot. I know. Yeah, I definitely remember. I want to say it was somewhere in Indiana. Wasn't he the coach of the Evansville or one of those teams? I'll look it up.
Yeah. So last week we had the poll in which we asked, in terms of Arizona, how many games you thought they would win, 31 regular season games. Would it be 26 or less or 27 and more? So if you start from the beginning, of which Tommy entered at 61 and 11, he would have needed 28 in the regular season. Now, obviously, this could go through the postseason as well, I would think, is how that record works. But he would need to get 28 in the regular season to match that 89. And I think that's probably something he will definitely do, because I could obviously see this team winning 30 games plus this season.
It was Stephen F. Austin where he came from.
Brad Underwood, Stephen F. Austin.
With his first head coaching job. I mean, he spent time all over the place. He was at Western Illinois, Daytona Beach Community College, Kansas State as an assistant, South Carolina as an assistant, and then 2013 he took over Stephen F. Austin as a head coach.
And he is now at Illinois, if I'm not mistaken?
Correct, yeah. He spent 1 year at Oklahoma State, and he's been at Illinois for the past 8 years, 7 years.
Yeah, and brought his team here. Was it last year they played here, or was that the year before that Illinois came out here?
Oof.
I want to say it was last year.
I try to block all Illinois, Arizona basketball games from my memory, if possible.
It can't be that bad, is it?
That's another story for another day. My cousin got married that day, and I didn't actually get a chance. I've seen every single Arizona basketball game live.
You're talking about the
game, yeah, 2008, something like that.
Game, was that Elite Eight?
Yeah, Elite Eight.
Yeah. It was 2 years ago. It was 2 seasons ago. They came here in December, and the Wildcats won 83-79.
Yep.
Yeah, that would not be a bad home and home. And then they played. Well, I'm sorry. And then did we play them again? No, we thought we were going to play them again. I think the postseason we were in line to.
Right. There's so many weird, odd rivalries over the years. When I was younger, it was Iowa, right? Because of Coach Olson coming over there, and Iowa was also really, really good. There's been a couple of times with Michigan, but Illinois, I think a lot of U of A fans might point towards the Illini as being a low-key, big-time basketball rival with the Cats that they would like to see more matchups with for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our keys to the game here.
Wildcats fans, our keys to the game are brought to you by the Royal Automotive Group. Royal Automotive, the dealership that is different.
J-Dub, I'll let you go first on this one.
All right, number one, I would love to see lockdown perimeter defense. I think you got to hold these guys under 30% from the three-point line. So you talked about all these outrageous numbers they're shooting.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to come into McHale, put them up early and often. The only way they stay in this game is to be, shoot some outrageous percentage and high volume from three. Number two, also guard-wise, since they're going to be playing a lot of guards, all five, the five guys that play the most minutes for this team from Southern, they're all guards. So you got to turn the pressure up. They average about 12 and a half turnovers through the early season. I'd like to see 18 plus, maybe even 20, because they're going to really be trying to make things happen. On-ball defense for Arizona is outrageous. And number three, I want to see – we'll see how much small ball Coach Lloyd plays today, but I definitely want to see some of the guys who maybe didn't get a chance to play over there in Durham get some minutes. You got to get out there and get on film and see how they're going to be a lot of different lineups, rotating different players together. But, guys like Morauskas and those other guys who didn't get a chance to play, just see some of those other guys get on the court. Not garbage time. That's not what I'm talking about, David Kelly. But I want to see some of those other guys get their feet wet and get ready to play big-time college basketball.
Yeah, and in that vein, I think one of my keys is I want to see the continued development of Motias Krivas. Like I was saying, I think he's a guy that I like when he's on the floor. I'm very comfortable when he's on the floor at both ends. I would like to maybe see if he could get his first double-double tonight. How about a double-double from Motias Krivas? Maybe about 12 points and 10 rebounds from the big man out there for his first opportunity, third game of the season. And I agree with you in terms of the shooting percentage. I was going, you went a little bit lower than I was going to go with the three-point shooting. I was like, if you can keep them at 40, I think that would be pretty good considering how well that they've shot it. So I was saying 40%. We'll see how that turns out at the end of the game. 30% versus 40% in this ball game. And I think for Arizona, you want to continue to see this offense take care of the basketball, not turn it over, keep it under that number of 12 turnovers moving forward for Arizona. I think that would be a good place to be in this particular ball game. And as always, keep everybody healthy. That's my main key. Pretty much every ball game. Keep everybody healthy moving forward. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number if you want to get in on the program. We have a couple minutes left of the program as well if you want to hop in here if you're on your way to the game. But for right now, that is going to wrap up our keys to tonight's game.
Wildcats fans, that's our keys to the game. Brought to you by the Royal Automotive Group. Royal Automotive, the dealership that is different.
All right, final few minutes of the show, and all that we have left to do is give you your starting lineup for the Wildcats this evening.
The foundation of a great college basketball team begins with the starting lineup. Today's starting lineup is brought to you by Rockin' K, a master plan community designed by nature.
All right, for your Arizona Wildcats at one guard, it is Caleb Love, 6'4", out of St. Louis, Missouri. Caleb off to a pretty good start this season, averaging 12 points and 3 rebounds for your Arizona Wildcats. At the other guard is the Pac-12 Player of the Week, Kylan Boswell, 6'2", sophomore out of Champaign, Illinois. We got Illinois. We got Missouri kid, Kylan, coming in, averaging 7 rebounds to start the season, along with 15 points for Kylan Boswell. Pelle Larsson at your other guard in this 3-guard lineup, 6'6", 215-pounder out of Nacka, Sweden. Pelle Larsson in 2 games is shooting 67% from the floor. He has made 8 of 12 shots, averaging 14 points and 4 rebounds for Arizona. At the forward spot is Keshad Johnson. Keshad Johnson, 6'7", 225-pounder out of Oakland, California. Keshad so far in the year, 14 points and 8 rebounds. The man in the middle, Umar Balo out of Mali, 7', 260-pounder. The transfer from Gonzaga. Umar so far 13 points and 6 rebounds through the first 2 wins for the Arizona Wildcats. Head coach in his 3rd season at the University of Arizona, Tommy Lloyd, 63 wins and 11 losses. What do you like about that starting 5 there, J-Dub?
What is not to like about that starting 5? As I've said, and will say all year, I think the mix of youthful exuberance and people who've been there, done that. You look across the board, they got athleticism at all positions. Starting with Kylan Boswell, really, really strong for his spot. But just all of them, and I think Balo got some headlines coming in nationally because, he was voted as one of the favorites for Player of the Year, obviously all conference. And the balance on this year's team, DK, you mentioned his stats. I don't know how much more. I don't know how elevated those numbers will look moving forward, just because there's so many different guys and in that offense passing the ball around. 5 guys who are a threat to score, 5 guys who are bought in on defense. It's just going to be really tough for opponents playing against that starting lineup.
And like we said, we hope to see some of those other guys tonight. Filip Bordovicinen did not get into the last game. You'd like to see him have an opportunity to play. Paulius Morauskas, Conrad Martinez, among the players that you'd like to see get back out on the floor and get some key minutes in this particular ball game tonight. That's going to wrap up our show. We'll be back with you for the post game after the game tonight. It is the Arizona Wildcats and the Southern Jaguars, with tip-off coming up in just a little over an hour, 6 o'clock at McHale Center. For J.W. Madden, thanks to our guests, Chris Powers and Ryan Hansen, I'm David Kelly. We'll talk to you after the game. Bear down, everybody. Arizona Southern coming up next on Wildcats Radio 1290.
that is your starting lineup for today's game. The starting lineup is brought to you by Rocking K, a master plan community designed by nature. This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Broadway in Tucson, Dave & Buster's Tucson, Dorado Rock, First Choice Pools, The Good Feet Store, Jack Furrier Tire and Auto Care, O'Reilly Chevrolet, Ram Plumbing, Restaurant Supply Store, Right Way Heating, Cooling and Plumbing, Rocking KA Master Plan Community Designed by Nature, University Termite and Pest Control,